Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast. I know how much you guys have been missing us since it's been about 3 hours since we went live. How you doing, Rukshan?
We just can't stop going live. I think we're like kind of people are probably sick of us.
We're obsessed. We're obsessed. And I just want to point out we were a couple minutes late because even though we went live, yes, you, the technical support, were having technical difficulties with yourself.
Yeah,
Can you
that's true.
pledge? Can you pledge to the audience that from now on you'll take care of stuff before we start?
I'll be more responsible and I'll be on time and I'll get my stuff sorted earlier. As you can see, I'm moving to a different room, so I've just been slowly setting it up.
Yeah, we know.
It's a work
Last
in
week you were
progress.
in India. This week you're in Pakistan. We get it. War. Anyways, we've got a pack
That's how
night
it is.
tonight. We've got two guests tonight, and we've got to move quite quickly because we've got so much to fill in that time. So just letting all the viewers know, thank you for tuning in tonight. As usual, share. We're about to hit 1,000 live, but we want to hit. We've been hitting about 8 to 10,000, so we want to double those numbers, and we need you at home to do so. So share it with everyone, and we're going to get straight into the show. We're going to do the super chats as we go, and so if you want to super chat, which means that we're going to bring your comment on screen and read it at some point during the show, and at the end we'll catch up with the last ones. Guys, let's not waste any time. Let's bring in our guest, Joanna. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hey, Joanna.
Hi guys. I'm good. It's nice to be on your show.
So for people, well, it's not our show. This is the opposition show. At some point, when Rukshan actually joins the other side, he's going to get kicked off this show. It's only for the opposition. That's why you're here tonight. For people who don't know who you are, quick introduction.
So my name is Joanna Howe. I'm a professor of law at the University of Adelaide. I get into quite a lot of controversy because I advocate for the human rights of children in utero. I also have 5 children and I live in Adelaide, but I'm on the road traveling at the moment with the kids.
Nice.
I have like 10 jokes that I go one after another. But I'm gonna let you off them just because we know you're in a rush. Like you said, you got 5 kids. I've got 4 kids, and yeah. So I can't imagine another one on top of that. What are the age differences? Just so we know how big the problem is.
So yeah. Oh no, it's not a problem. The youngest is 5 and the
sorry,
eldest is
love.
14.
How old?
No, it's like kind of controlled chaos in our family. So youngest is 5, eldest is 14, but we're actually in Byron at the moment because 4 of our kids are competing in the Nationals rock climbing competition. So it's a little bit
Wow.
out of
That's
schedule.
amazing.
And we've had the whole day at the competition and we've got another 3 more days. So it's a bit intense.
Are you a rock climber or something, or is it just
No,
no?
no.
I'm scared of
I'm
heights.
like, where did
I
these
look at that
kids?
stuff. I don't want to touch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I'm like, where did they get this from? Because it definitely wasn't from me. I think I bring the determination. So when they're on the wall and they have to get up as high as possible, they have my kind of mindset. But the sporty side of things, it wasn't me.
Okay, we could talk all night, but you're going to have to go pretty soon. So I've got some stuff lined up. We'll work through it quite quickly. You had a massive rally against the now passed or amended abortion bill. We'll get to that in a second. But something as a Victorian that gave us much pride was the following clip.
So I have some breaking news. Adam Bant in the Greens has lost his seat.
So what? Actually, I think there was a little more that you said that I wanted you to play on.
The Greens are the party of everything evil in this country. Isn't that right?
So when you say the Greens is a party of everything evil in this country, can you tell us what you mean by that?
Well, it's pretty funny because I think going back to the days of Bob Brown, they cared about the trees and the environment. And a lot of people I knew actually voted for them. But where they have now arrived at is a really radical left place. And the problem that we face is that they pull everybody because they have so much power and influence in parliaments just through having kind of sort of a minority position, but a significant enough of a minority position that they will introduce really radical legislation like the one they introduced in New South Wales on abortion. And they don't necessarily win everything, but they win something. And every time they're pulling us further and further to a place that's just fundamentally anti-human.
So it's mainly the issue, and what I'm going to do is we're going to go back to the Greens when you leave, just so I can really get you on some of the trouble you've been causing lately, which was what that rally is about, and like the title of this whole episode is, because we've noticed that you have the Victorian Socialists say they're going national, which is just hilarious. I don't think they're going with the name National Socialists because they don't want to say the quiet part out loud, but
they are going national.
the media is focused in on you, targeting you for essentially the campaign that you guys ran, you online and also physically at this rally. So what was it really about? And I've got a quick clip here from Tony Abbott at your rally. We'll play that in a second. But what was really the issue when you held the rally, which was about a week ago, I think, or a bit over a week ago?
Yeah. So in early March, it became clear that Labor and the Greens were trying to push through the most radical abortion bill we've ever seen in the world in the New South Wales Parliament. And so we found out about that on March 19. It was a bill that did 4 things. The first was it gave the Minister for Health a new power to force hospitals, publicly funded hospitals, to perform abortions. So he could order them to perform abortions, and then according to the bill, they must comply. So that was a really concerning mandatory provision that, we've seen that Labor and the Greens have form on this. In Canberra, they forcibly acquired a Catholic hospital because it wouldn't perform abortion. Secondly, the bill removed all data keeping on abortion. Thirdly, it actually eroded freedom of conscience by forcing doctors to be involved in the process of abortion through active referral. And then the fourth thing was around nurses and midwives, and now giving them a new power to be able to carry out abortions. So this was a really radical bill. We actually held a rally within just a week of learning about this deal that they'd done. And what that did is it actually delayed the passage of this bill. And it meant that during the federal election, our first rally had about 5,000 people, but during the federal election, we letterboxed 10 marginal Labor seats, which got them very angry indeed. And our whole campaign was about the fact that Chris Minns, the Premier of New South Wales, he should be blocking this bill, because I know you guys probably aren't a big fan of Jacinta Allen in Victoria, but one thing that she did do was when the Greens in Victoria earlier this year introduced a plan to constitutionalise the right to abortion, and they drafted the bill. Allen just said, we're not having a conscience vote. It's a private member's bill. We're blocking it. Now, Minns could have done that, but he gave in to the pro-abortion elements in his party, which are very strong. And Minns himself voted for abortion up to birth in 2019, so he is pro-abortion. And they wanted this bill through. But what they do is they get the Greens to do their dirty work so that they can still kiss up to religious voters and pretend that they're on their side. And Christians in this country really need to wake up to the fact that this is the game that Labor plays time and time again at election, when Albanese fronts up at church, cries over the death of Pope Francis. It's just this game that they play. But ultimately, Labor and the Greens had a deal about that. And we saw that the minute the election was over, Minns gave this government time, this supposed private members bill that he'd told the community he would not support. And he gave it government time, and they rammed it through in 2 weeks. So we did our big rally of 10,000 people, and we managed to, I guess it was such a big outpouring of people power that the very next night, the upper house gutted 3 out of 4 of those elements of the bill.
That's what I was about to ask you. So there was major amendments to it, and it was not only supported by Labor, but even the leader of the opposition, I understand, voted for it. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So the night after our big rally, we managed to gut 3 out of 4 elements, which was excellent. And
what were they, really, just for the viewer who's not following?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so we gutted the thing about forcing all hospitals to perform abortions. We gutted the bit about data keeping. In fact, we managed to get our own pro-life amendment into the bill. It was amazing, actually. So much drama because one MP, they rang the bell, she didn't make it on time, and so we actually got that pro-life amendment through, and it's to have an annual report on abortions, including adverse consequences. So that was incredible. And then we also gutted the bit about forcing doctors to be involved in abortion. So 3 out of the 4 things
And this
got
is one of
taken
the
out. We
issues.
got one good thing in.
I don't want to rush you, but I know that you're on a time. This was one of the points that former Prime Minister spoke at your rally. Let's have a listen to what he said.
What this legislation is attempting to do is to
prior
force
the amendment.
every health professional and to support every health institution into facilitating abortion. It is extending the current obligation to refer into an obligation to facilitate. This is designed to drive conscientious health professionals out of the system, and it's designed to take religious institutions out of our health system. But I want to make an even more fundamental point of principle. This is an attempt to cancel conscientious health professionals. It's an attempt to drive good Christian people and good Muslim people and good Jewish people, good people of faith out of our health system. It's designed to cancel them, and it's designed to drive institutions of principle and of faith out of our system. It is a shameful attempt to change our society for the worse. It's a shameful attempt to cancel Christianity. It's an assault on our fundamental rights and freedoms, and my friends, it must be fought.
So that was the former Prime Minister, a proud Conservative, I guess. The issues that he's talking about in there, that's part of what you managed to get gutted. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So we did manage to get rid of all of that. The only thing that's left, the only bad bit that's left, is this power that's now been given to nurses and midwives to perform abortions through prescribing abortion drugs. And I was inundated by nurses and midwives reaching out to me saying they didn't want this to become part of their day job, that even if technically they have a right to conscientious objection under the law, from their own employer, there would be an element of compulsion because there would be a lot of pressure to participate. So it is a very sad thing that has passed, but I also point to the fact that, we managed to disrupt the radical left narrative of Labor and the Greens that abortion is healthcare and everybody should do it by gutting their bill. And, the reaction since all of this has happened has been pretty furious to me. So I don't know if you're going to talk about that.
I want to ask you about that. I actually want to ask you about that, Professor Hale, because I've seen you advocating for these issues for a long time, like the baby's born alive, so you speak at the parliamentary hearing and so on. So this is something clearly that you're very passionate about. And then now the media has taken all of this and kind of tried to make it look like some type of MAGA, MAGA movement rallies against, saving babies. It's like a MAGA thing apparently to gather with people and protest against what some of these laws are, proposing to do. How do you take to that? Because obviously this is not something there is an element of politics in this, but this is something clearly that you're very passionate about as a professional and something that you're very familiar with. So it's not the way they're portraying, is it?
Well, I think it's really interesting how much they've come after me since we managed to gut their bill. So in the last 48 hours, we've had the Liberal opposition leader and the Premier unite in the fact that they want to take me out. So the opposition leader has called me a brazen bully. The Premier has said that I'm guilty of misinformation and bullying and threatening MPs. And, and all of that's been said and then perpetuated through the pro-abortion media establishment, Guardian, ABC, Nine. It's kind of really incredible what they do, the Sydney Morning Herald. And I guess what I think at the end of the day is they really want to control the narrative they really want to control the power. And with our movement, because it has organically risen up through, I guess, me reaching people directly on social media. 2.5 years ago, I just put my first post to Instagram, and now across 5 platforms in my email database, there's 200,000 people who are following along or subscribed. And I guess they just don't like not being able to control what's going on. And so,
one of the people that don't like, one of the people that don't like what's going on is the member for Granville. Let's have a quick listen to what she said about you.
Campaign tactics engaged have amounted to bullying and spreading misinformation and disinformation, not lobbying. The behaviour of Dr. Joanna Howe in particular has been dreadful. Dr. Joanna is a social media influencer campaigning against abortions. Most of her content, however, is misleading and her tactics are bizarre and nasty. I cannot make this clearer. Her obnoxious attention-seeking behaviour does not influence me, and I doubt it influences any of my colleagues. Instead of seeking meetings and presenting a rational argument based on facts, Dr. Joanna organised a tour of Labor MPs' electorate offices to arrange protests against a Greens bill. When she visited my office, I knew she was coming, but I was at a meeting in the city, so I instructed my staff not to close the office, but to call the police if anything got out of hand. About 25 people showed up, and quite amusingly, one of my regular constituents left the office to see them there and started arguing with the protesters. After the uneventful protest ended, Dr. Joanna then entered my office and spoke to my senior electorate officer, who was heavily pregnant, on her last day of work before maternity leave. Someone else snuck in behind Joanna and filmed the interaction without the knowledge or consent of my very heavily pregnant staff member. Dr. Joanna then posted the video without the knowledge or consent of my staff member, and then didn't take it down when asked by my staff member, and it remains up to this day. While she didn't say anything unkind, it is still filmed and posted without consent of a very heavily pregnant woman and a very vulnerable young woman, and that is just not okay. Dr. Joanna has also repeatedly called me a pro-abortion MP, which is obviously not true. I was a member of Emily's List, and I resigned after I voted against the 2019 legislation. When I joined, I made it clear that I don't support late-term abortions and was told neither do they. I didn't ask what they meant by that, and I should have, and that is on me, not on them. I'm still not sure why Dr. Joanna is telling people I'm a pro-abortion MP and a member of Emily's List.
So to deal with the first bizarre...
Sorry, there, I got that from you. You've got a fantastic show there, by the way. I liked your look there, a lot more professional than Rukshan, but I'm going to rush you through. Wow, there's so much to unpack. There's so much to unpack about this whole story and everything to do with abortions, and I'm not really getting into that debate. That's not really a thing that I'm super passionate about. I know you are. But when it comes to something like this, where you have an MP who's crying in Parliament about the fact that you came, and she admits you essentially kindly came in, and somebody came with you who was filming, and they obviously weren't.
And these are the Greens. These are the Greens as well. That's the thing. These are the Greens. That's all their tactics is like these hardcore, crazy protests and interjecting. And she's having this sook. It's insane.
No, she's a Labour MP. No,
she's Labour, but I think the thing is they can't handle it. They just cannot handle it.
But the idea that you can't film a publicly funded, like she's a staffer for an MP. And in a public place, and the idea that you're just not...
she was being filmed. She knew she was being filmed. There were 3 of us in the office. There was the staffer, there was myself, and there was a guy with an iPhone up. He didn't sneak in. He was right next to me filming, and she looks at the camera multiple times. It's just an insane thing. And you know how she says there, I resigned from Emily's List. Well, on the Dr. Joe show, I shared the text message from the staffer who said she was kicked out of Emily's List because she didn't vote for abortion up to birth in 2019. So, I think what I see, and I'm seeing this time and time again because it happened in South Australia last year, these MPs will use parliamentary privilege to say things that are blatantly untrue about me. But I can't do anything because they've said it using parliamentary privilege.
Yep.
But they've got a hotline to the left-wing media establishment who already knows about this speech in advance, so that the minute the speech happens, which no one's watching because no one's watching Parliament, but the article lands in The Guardian calling me a bully, the headline in the Sydney Morning Herald, anti-abortion campaigner, a brazen bully. And it's just repeated time and time again because they want to create a false narrative around me that I'm bullying MPs when all I'm doing is exercising my democratic right to campaign.
And just so you know, the complaint that people have when they look bad at the end of filming is not something unique to you. It is something I am very used to. I'll do 20-minute interviews with somebody with a microphone in their face, and then when they realise how idiotic they sound, then at the end they go, "I do not consent to you publishing that." And it's like, okay, cool, take me to court, mate. Like, so it happens every time. But the idea in this case, that's crazy to me, that this is like you are literally speaking truth to power. That is, and that should be celebrated, not condemned, especially when they recognise that you did it respectfully. And I've known you for a while now, and I follow your work, and I think you do great work. I'm not an expert in that area of anything. You know what they say. I can't have an opinion. I'm a man. No, I'm not. I'm not an expert on it, and I certainly, I understand that there are two views here. I can see it even in the comments. But I think most people don't realise, and this is the conversation we've had before, is that it's legal until birth here in Australia. So that's the problem. Most people in the comments here, they might agree to it early on, but then they'll think at a certain point there is something. There's a bit of a problem there, and it's a bit satanic. Like you can picture it. It's an actual baby at some point.
It's up to birth. It's legal up to birth in every state and territory. And last year I drafted a bill that I got a politician to introduce. And the bill just said after 28 weeks, so third trimester, up until birth, instead of injecting the baby with potassium chloride and then the mother delivering that baby stillborn, so she still has to go through birth and deliver the baby, that's the process for late-term abortion. It's injection followed by delivery. The bill just said skip the injection, deliver the baby alive, which is quicker and safer for the mother, and then place the baby for adoption and allow the mother to terminate her pregnancy from 28 weeks to 40, but she doesn't have the right to kill the baby. You would think that's a compromise people could get behind, but not the radically pro-abortion MPs in Labor and the Greens who joined up to not only vote against that bill, but after it, they did the same thing where they accused me of bullying. No substance to any of those allegations at all. They said I yelled in Parliament, but I was never rejected or kicked out on the night of the vote, so it clearly didn't cause much of a ruckus. So on completely trumped up, unsubstantiated allegations with no due process or opportunity for me to respond, they banned me from the Parliament of South Australia, and I'm still banned to this day. And apparently the last guy that got banned literally went in there, took off his shirt and ran around the floor. It's just insane how much they want to control the narrative on abortion. They don't let me speak. They don't let us speak. And
before I let you go, there was a video. I know we've gone 20 minutes over your time.
Okay.
There was a video during the election. We just came out of the election. There was a video that you publicised. It'll be the last thing we run before I let you go. That I think many people
settle
saw.
down.
Yes,
I've
I
asked you
am
very
settled down,
kindly.
darling.
I've just
I'm
asked
not
you to settle down.
Yes,
I've
I
asked you
am
very
settled down,
kindly.
darling.
I've just
I'm
asked
not
you
attacking
kindly.
anybody.
You're not even letting me speak. You're interrupting me whenever I speak. I'm asking you. I've had a few people who are quite upset.
Yeah,
I just want to speak to my supervisors.
What are they upset about?
About what you're speaking to them about.
What about speaking about?
About late-term abortions.
Okay, you don't like that?
It's not my opinion.
It's a horrible thing, doll. And that's why I want to stop it.
Sorry. I want to speak to my supervisors because I've had some complaints.
Okay,
if I
fair
can
enough.
ask you, if you would like to speak to everybody about your policies, you're more than welcome to. But just that point for now, if I can please ask
What can
you
I
to
say
just
then?
hold on.
What can I say? Our
Everything
policies?
else, every other of your policies.
I'm not allowed to mention abortion.
Just for now, I've had some complaints and I just want to run it up the chain.
Okay,
if you
darling.
wouldn't.
Absolutely mental. Just a minute. It speaks for itself. AEC supervisor during the election telling somebody, I don't care where you stand on this issue. I don't care where you stand on any issue. The idea that you can't stand outside the polling booth and talk about your policies because it's offending some people, that is crazy to me.
That is crazy that people can make complaints, like activists can make complaints, and then you're not allowed to speak in a democracy at the very time we should be allowed to debate policy during an election. So she was, just to be clear, it wasn't like she was in that part where you're not allowed to talk to voters, you know, the 6 meter kind of space. She was outside of that with all of the other candidates, and she was told by the Electoral Commission, you can talk about anything else, just not abortion. And she's a candidate for Family First who is against abortion up to birth. And this is the reason why this grandmother, she's got 29 grandchildren, she's been seeing my content for the last couple of years, one of my first followers actually, and she went into Family First to campaign on this issue. She passed that video on to me. I shared it on socials. The Australian Electoral Commission predictably tried to get me to take it down, which of course I didn't.
And again, you're not alone. They actually, one of my videos from outside the, I think it was Monique Ryan. It was some short. I can't even remember.
It was Monique Ryan. I saw you outside Monique Ryan.
No. I'm not talking about
the police. Did they?
Not where they came to me. I'm saying they actually sent a legal threat to Facebook, who made it that you non-visible on Facebook or something.
Shocking.
I got a notification. It's outrageous. They're out of control, and good on you for spreading it, because I think it's important. I don't care what issues. It's bizarre that even some issues get right away. You know how many times I went to the polling booth, they were talking about Palestine. That was fine. You know, even though you're in a Jewish area and that's offensive to a lot of people there, but no one's going to stop you. It doesn't matter where you stand on that issue. I think we need more conversations. And to be honest, if more protesters that I disagreed with approached it the way you approach it, I would not be worried to walk down the street sometimes in some areas. If you were the worst of the protesters, I would not have a problem, because I would engage with you. Let's say you were one of those crazy left pro-Palestine or jihadi groups that were protesting Palestine. I would be happy because I'd be able to stand there and have a conversation with you. But you're far from the worst kind of protester, and I appreciate you speaking to us tonight while you got the 5 kids there on your trip there. So I appreciate it. And where can people follow you just before we let you go? Just let them know again.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on the show. So on YouTube, it's at Dr. Joanna Howe, and I do the Dr. Joe show every day, but also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and I'm Dr. Joanna Howe, Dr. Joanna Howe, X, I'm Prof. Joanna Howe, because a troll stole my username.
Oh, probably his name's probably Rukshan. Your show does look.
Dr. Joe is actually very active on social media. She's a doc professor. She's very active, more active than us actually. So I don't know how
she has a way better looking setup than you do. I just want to say
setup looks, everything's better, and she's actually
not
apparently
right now, so I'm on the road.
She's apparently more controversial than you, Avi. Like in terms of the way that people speak about her.
I needed somebody to take. I'm sick of being the number one controversial thing in Australia. Joanna, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dr. Joe.
Thank you. Thanks so much, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Well, that
was illuminating, and we couldn't really get into too much.
I really want to get into it, and I guess we'll have to have her back when she's in her studio, because look, I'm not somebody that's crazy about that issue. I certainly have views. I don't think up to birth makes any sense, and I think anybody who watches what that looks like would be against it. And I think most people in the comments who are pro-abortion are against.
That's the thing with her, I think, because she's very knowledgeable. For one, they can't just discount her, right? She's very well educated. She carries herself very professionally when she engages in these things. She's effective as a campaigner and getting people together, and she has a social media presence. And I think the people in the Labor and the left who are, you know, very kind of for abortion and so on, they find her formidable. They find her really hard for them to go, hey, she's a Nazi or a far right. So they've got to find some way to bring her down, and they're trying their hardest. But this is kind of the first time I think this group has come up against this kind of very put together, orchestrated, campaign.
She's very effective, and those are great numbers,
children,
and it's a great.
Effective.
But you can see she's doing well at her activism. Listen, we've got our next guest. Speaking of crazy Labor supporters who what'd you say? I don't know where he stands on this issue.
We hold him responsible for
responsible for the election. Our good friend Drew, welcome back to the show. How you going, mate? We can't hear you again. This is what he does every single time.
This guy is not good with technical stuff. He's worse than me. He can never get his.
And I think he streams a lot. And he's just no. Okay. While he tries to work that out, let's just read the one super chat, guys. You can super chat on our YouTube channels, both our YouTube channels. Where is that super chat? Is he going to work it out before I get to the super chats? Is it? Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, it's from our friend. Go on, read it.
Giovanni.
Giovanni,
Thanks for the super chat, mate. Love your work, Dr. Joe. Keep it up, and God bless. Christ is King. May He continue to strengthen your arm.
I'm sorry,
That was for
Giovanni,
Dr.
that we
Joe.
didn't get
Thank
to. I should have. I didn't read it before while she was still here. I was just trying to rush because she did warn me that she only had very limited time. So we will have her back on again. Drew, are we there? No,
Mate,
we're not.
this guy. This is like what is he? A Greek? What is he? I don't know if the Greek or the. Oh, there we go.
Did we have
Working now?
Oh, there we go.
It's
Welcome
now.
to the
You
show,
gotta remember,
mate.
You got to remember these things, mate.
How you doing?
I think it's the show that you guys use. Sure.
It's the what?
He's trying to blame us.
He's blaming
He's
us.
trying to blame us.
I don't know. It's working now, right? It's working now. It's good. It's good to be on. It's good to be on. How are you guys going?
How you feeling? You got buyer's remorse yet about Labor?
Look, they've not really done anything yet.
I know, that was a
but
joke.
I wanted to say, I support what Keir Starmer's doing in Britain right now. He's going out. He's saying
we were going to get into that.
Yeah. I hope it works. If it does it, he'll be a legend. That's what I'm
So
saying.
just for the audience, so people know, he's talking about Keir Starmer is suddenly pro-deporting illegal immigrants. He's really, notched up his anti-illegal immigration and stopping immigration. But I find that a bit odd. Like, he's being pushed by the Nigel Farage Reform Party because he's realizing he's losing. He lost a seat just now, the first by-election, to Nigel Farage. So he sees that he's going to lose seats. Does that not make you think these guys, they're full of it? Like Labor Party's going to do the same thing here. They're going to push it until people have had enough.
Let me address that, right? Obviously, it's in response to Nigel Farage and the recent gains they've made at the council election. That said, though, this huge wave of migration in Britain that has actually been, it's a crazy stat. They've actually had a quadrupling of their migration over the past 4 years, getting to 1 million people a year net terms.
We know that. We know that, Drew. We all know that. But I think the question is, Keir Starmer, Labor Party, they've been responsible for that for so long.
Ruksha, let me explain that, right? That happened under Boris Johnson. They call it the Boris wave, right? It did happen under the Tories. And now, that was a problem that they inherited, right? They did inherit that problem. I agree, the first year he didn't do enough, but at least now he's talking about the issue. He's speaking, in the way that it needs to be addressed. And if he does it, then
you're gaslighting us. They labelled anyone who broached this issue as racist. Don't pretend like it's just like in Australia. They always have, just because some Labor light in the Liberal Party speak the same way as Labor, it does not mean that it is that Labor's off the hook. And the thing is, here in Australia, it's the same thing. They're pro more immigration, pro more refugees, pro.
They need to lower it. They need to lower it. And
I agree. And you've made that point.
Right? Let me say, right, I am a Labor voter, but I'm a bit more conservative leaning on some of these issues. And I call on Albanese and I call on the Labor government here to follow what Keir Starmer is doing in Britain. They have to drastically
before it's too late.
They have to do it. And honestly, it will be the same deal as Britain if they don't do it. There will be a rise of the far right in Australia. We'll have a movement like Nigel Farage, etc. So really, it comes down to Labor, whether they are able to actually follow reason here, and they've got to follow what Keir Starmer's doing in Britain. And I'm just saying this as somebody who's not a crazy Labor voter. I'm saying you've got to look at
the audience may question that non-description of.
I mean, no one can.
No, you didn't say. You said I'm. No, hold on. Words matter. Yeah. You said I'm not a crazy Labor voter. That is factually incorrect. You are crazy.
Look,
and you're a Labor voter.
Listen, no. Listen here, Avi.
And by definition, if you're a Labor voter, you're probably crazy.
Let me say this, right? I spent 4 or 5 years smashing the Chinese Communist Party. I've been very anti-Hamas. The left hate me, basically. I am a non-woke, moderate centrist, right? And I'm telling Elbo, I voted for him, and I'm saying, look at what Keir Starmer's doing. You can do this as a Labor Prime Minister. There's nothing in the Labor tradition that says you have to have infinity migrants. It's actually bad for the working class. And I'm saying, as somebody who they're supposed to care for the working class. You have to lower migration. It's killing young people with housing. It's leading to massive, breakdown in social cohesion. We've got crazy jihadists on the streets and stuff like that. We're losing our identity as a country, and there's nothing in the old Labor tradition. The old Labor tradition, you had very patriotic prime ministers like Chifley during World War II and Curtin, etc. So I call on them to follow what Keir Starmer's doing right now, and you've got to have a sane voice on the other side of the aisle.
Okay. So we're gonna. I've got that. We weren't bringing you here to talk about Keir Starmer, even though we were actually wrestling with the idea of talking about that, but too much has come up. So I want to move on to the new Greens leadership. So obviously,
very funny.
So Larissa Waters won. I guess my question first off is, there was essentially so the rumors were that. What's her name? So you had Hanson Young. So you had Hanson Young, Faruqi, or Waters. Why? I guess this question is to Rukshan first. Are you offended that they didn't pick your cousin?
Well, I'm surprised that the Greens they picked the white woman. I mean, that doesn't look like in the tradition of the very progressive Greens when it comes to these issues. I'm surprised they've not picked Faruqi and held back a person of colour.
And there was rumours Lydia Thorpe was going to run. I would have thought they would have made her Prime Minister. Another interesting note with their race was they were forced because they so traditionally it's from the lower house that becomes the leader of the party, both in Liberal Labor, and Adam Bandt was from the lower house. But they only have one seat, and they clearly don't like that person. So this time it's gone to the Senate, but to a white privileged senator, as opposed to the darling pro-Hamas Faruqi.
I want to say, I'm actually really sad that Marine Faruqi didn't get it.
I know.
I think she would have led the Greens off the cliff. She was the candidate who really could just.
I'm with you.
It would have been so much comedic material for 3 years. Just the insane anti-Australia stuff she gets up to. She refuses to condemn Hamas. I mean, it's funny because Larissa is obviously very left-wing and very progressive, but I think she doesn't have the same visceral level of hatred for the country and the Australian nation.
I don't know. I think we were looking at it. We were, I did a quick scroll, so I found this divest from genocide, all the regular stuff. You had this is what she's known for, right? But I guess Faruqi. I agree with you. Like, I would have liked Faruqi because Aussies look at that and they're outraged. You have somebody that's come
so much.
Somebody's come to Australia. Australia's open, their arms to her. She's succeeded here.
And she hates us.
Yeah, she succeeded here more than, she's in the top 0.2% of the country in success. Her and her son.
Yeah.
She's a property investor. Yeah, she's a property investor. Has a whole bunch of homes. She was trying to knock down some native koala habitat to build some property development. And, that's very ironic, critical as a Greens figure. She's someone who hates the country so much. And it would have just been amazing if she had been the Greens leader. Just to watch them, for 3 years, the craziness that would have involved. It would have been great. She would have left the cliff. Larissa Waters is slightly less insane, I think, in that sense. But
I don't know if she's slightly less. I just think she's probably less offensive to. So the Greens have probably learned a lesson to not go down that route. Like, I think the election affected them. They must have sat in that room. I'm sure she wanted to be leader, but they go. They probably found a nice, gentle way to say, "No, this is not your time yet. Your time is when we're on top."
Have you seen the comment where she once said, Marine Faruqi said that she had experienced racism within the Greens Party? She said every single institution she's been involved in white Australia has involved racism against her, even the Greens. So it must be a hard discussion. I mean, obviously they've gone against her because she's a brave woman of colour, and she's being purged because of it's really racist and sickening. And what a shame, though. It would have been so funny. Can you imagine? I mean, I think my favourite Marine Faruqi moment is when she got up into the parliament and she was saying Australia is racist and needs to start paying money to Pakistan, which is
For
very conveniently the
climate change.
Yeah, climate reparations. I think just like the visceral hatred she has for Australia, it's so evident. You can't hide it at all.
And also just the war now. In the war now, she was saying that, Australia's opened its doors to Indians. We need to open it to Pakistanis.
She openly uses her position in the Senate as a Pakistani heritage Australian. She openly uses her position to advocate for causes to do with Pakistan that have nothing to do with Australia. Like that particular moment in the Senate when she spoke about Pakistan and Australia's impact on the climate there because of some floods. I mean, it has nothing to do with her position as an Australian senator for Australians to be considering anything for that.
Can you imagine, dude? My family background's Greek Cypriot, right? Imagine if I was in the Senate and I was getting up and I was like, I want Australia to give $10 billion to Greek Cyprus tomorrow. Everyone would be like, what the fuck's this guy on about, right? It's just so bizarre. It's so bizarre. I just can't believe she does it, right? It is really strange.
So I'm just going to, 1 second, we'll read one or two quick super chats. Evening chats. Thank you, Brett, for the super chat. Guys, if you want a super chat, go to the YouTube, mine or Rukshan's, and chuck in a super chat. It supports the show. Plus, we'll bring it up on screen and read it. Much appreciated, Brett. And Giovanni's got one for Drew here. For Drew. Are you changing political parties, and why did you choose One Nation? Giovanni, you're a shit stirrer.
Look, I'm not a fan of Pauline. I was going to run for Katter in 2022, and she blocked me running for Katter. So I'm very, very much against Katter.
Do not be like Clive Palmer. Do not hold a grudge forever because somebody did something. Do you know what? So I remember that when you were trying to run for Katter, I was like, I like Bob Katter. I think he's value.
He's good fun. He's good value.
And on most issues, I think he's pretty spot on. Like they treat him like he's the crazy clown, but I think he's pretty spot on.
He's entertaining.
And there's a reason why, obviously, Pauline must have a good relationship with him. But at that time,
it broke down. How so what happened is, how Katter did a joint ticket with Rennick in Queensland Senate? So Pauline ran a candidate in Kennedy, Bob's seat, trying to go against him as well, like as punishment for that. So, I mean,
was this in last election? In this election?
This was the last election, yeah. And he won comfortably, but I think One Nation got like 8%, and he really just ran just to like kind of get at Katter because Katter endorsed Rennick. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, look, those are the little
you guys on the right, like infinity different parties, and everyone's
absolutely insane, and it goes. It seems to go always there. Okay. Just final one here that's sitting. What do we got? S. Thank you for the super chat. Hippo character repeatedly points to the streamer while chanting "Kid good." Am I missing something?
Maybe Drew knows that. He's a bit more hip.
I literally don't even know what that means, but at least they've given me $5.
Thank you for the support. You might have to give another $5 and explain to us what you were saying. Okay, so what I really wanted you here for, and I appreciate that you're. I know you were also.
I'm about to go. I'm hosting a show with Barclay McGain soon, but it's okay. We're a little bit over, but it's okay. We can do one.
We're going to be over, mate. You're just going to have to be late to your show, and nobody watches it anyways. It's loony lefty stuff.
I think there's like 5 or 10 people watching. I think
the Victorian Socialists have announced that they will be expanding Australia-wide with the hope of setting up branches in every single state and territory. Jasmine Duff is from the Victorian Socialists. She was their candidate for Fraser at the federal election. Got a swing towards the party. They got a swing in all 4 lower house seats they ran in.
Okay, so firstly, I saw your comment when they made this announcement. I thought it was brilliant, and I kind of stole it. People think it's mine. I credit you.
To be fair, a lot of people made the joke. It wasn't just me.
Okay, so you pointed out that the Socialists, the Victorian Socialists, are going national, which makes them by definition
the National Socialists. Absolutely.
And I know they're not going with that name because they don't want to say the quiet part out loud. It's hilarious.
They don't want to steal Thomas Sill's thunder, I believe.
Exactly.
I think they don't want to do that. Yeah.
Now, look, just fact checking him because that kid likes to fact check everyone. Maybe I'm not looking at the single seat.
Yeah. What's the? Oh,
when you look at the Victorian Socialists, maybe it's when he interviewed him, it was different, but there was a swing against him.
was it actually? Is this the latest one?
Yeah, well, this is current. This is now.
This is national.
Let me check. I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting.
It doesn't matter. It's the swing. It's a swing against him. Like so. The point is that he said maybe when he looked at it. So to be fair to that, is he an adult yet? Are we allowed to pick on him?
Not yet. No, he can't vote yet. No,
have you ever talked?
He's underage. Yeah.
What'd you say?
No, he's 18 now. Have you ever talked to Leo before? He's actually a nice bloke.
No, I did talk to him.
He's interviewed me. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, he interviewed me back when he first started, and then he started hiring like little Antifa, and they turned into everything.
Look, he does interview everyone though, because I'm pretty sure he interviewed Rennick and.
No, I think he does. I actually think he's really good. I think he shouldn't have surrounded him, and he got a bit excited with PR guy at that period, and was really leaning into. I think there were bad people advising him, but generally, I think he does a pretty good job. Like it's crazy because he doesn't really get any views, so I find it bizarre that he
but anyway, yeah.
Okay. So I think he's factually wrong there. The Nationals. I'm already calling.
Might have been on the night.
The National.
To be fair, it might have been the night. Yeah.
Okay, so
that's they have gone backwards. Yeah, you're right. They've gone backwards. It'll be interesting whether they can take the National Socialist Project national. And the very funny thing about Jordan Vanderlam, friend of the show, I know you guys are big fans of him.
Actually,
hold on.
I want to put it on the record that I actually spoke to Jordan. I tried to get him onto the show. There's multiple times now. Even today, I try to get him onto the show because it's better to hear from them, right? We're just talking about what they're doing. I'd love to hear from the National Socialists, the Victorian Socialists, what their plans are. So it'd be great if Jordan, if you're watching Jordan, come on the show. Maybe Drew can be here as well. We can have a debate, a lively, cordial debate.
What's the issue, Drew, that you would like to debate him on?
I'd love to debate him on housing because he says that it has nothing to do with immigration at all, which is obviously like a clown argument. And it's very funny though. This is actually a real fact about Jordan. When he got married, he went to his wedding in Doc Martens with red shoelaces, and I googled it, and like red shoelaces on Doc Martens, it's literally a Nazi symbol. Like, and I think he didn't know. To be fair to him, he didn't know, but it was very funny to troll him on that.
I wish this wasn't live so we could cut to be fair to him. I bet he didn't.
He blocked me for that. That was the reason I finally got blocked by Jordan Vanderlam, because I've said, why are your shoelaces red on the Doc Martens? The Doc Martens were made by Germans. It's very Nazi. And then he got so pissed and blocked me. That was a good one.
So they're clearly not getting more popular. They're even within their left wing echo chamber, they don't seem to be picking anything further up. Jordan was their big, celebrity that they ran this year that gave them a bit of clout. So how do you think this national expanding Australia wide for them is going to go?
Well, look, they've got the cult following on all the university campuses, because if you the really crazy Marxist clubs at the university campus, that's part of their group, right? It's Social Alternative, the Trotskyists. They're part of the Victorian Socialists. So they've got their little cult followings on all the university campuses, but it'll be interesting to see how they take National Socialism nationwide. It'll be interesting whether, Thomas Sewell might try fight them for the name. It'll be interesting. We'll see what happens. I think both of them are bad, so, I condemn both.
Let's have just a little bit more of a listen. I can't remember. I watched the beginning of it. I don't know if she says anything too funny.
As well as the Senate, Jasmine. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Leo.
So, simple question: why? Why expand nationally?
Well, you look at the state of Australian capitalism. We have a housing crisis of just terrible proportions, homelessness in the streets. We have racism towards all sorts of communities, but you look at the state of refugee rights, where a lot of people are in the community deprived of their right to visas. You have exploitation of workers by bosses, attacks on women's rights and trans rights. So we think, none of these questions are confined to Victoria. We think everywhere in this country, we need a working class fight back. We need to rebuild a socialist movement which can take forward the rights of...
The irony of a working class fight back, none of these people in the Victorian Socialists ever seem to have a job.
Good point. And look, it'll be interesting because... Look, will they be able to overthrow capitalism? Their little group. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't place any bets on it, but we wish them good luck on their grand quest to abolish capitalism once and for all from Jordan van der Lem's bedroom.
I'd say they're delusional at best. They're kids that play. Like we see this girl, I've seen her for years at every single protest. She's one of those professional protesters you see on every single issue with their branded T-shirts that they do sell. These anti-capitalists do sell merch. They have their own merch stand.
They charge $200. They charge $200 a 200. What is it? They charge $200 for their Marxism conferences every year. They hold conferences.
Yeah.
They make.
Speaking of making good money, we've got a super chat here from Papa Sage. Go for it, Rukshan.
Thanks, Papa. What are your thoughts on Labor doing a deal with the Greens immediately after the election to push a new tax onto Victorians for SES services?
Yeah, it is interesting that they did that. I think it's as predictable as night and day. Like, if you didn't see Labor making deals with the Greens, you're going to see plenty of deals coming for the Greens, because the Greens, even in federal, so forget about state, but federally after the election, you're going to see deals made with the Greens, because they've got to be able to get anything passed, it has to go through the Senate. So get used to it. What do I think about it is that Victorians and Australians are probably going to have, including our friend here, Drew, are going to hit some buyer's remorse sooner or later.
Look, I call on Alberta to follow Keir Starmer's lead, and if he does so, then there might be a chance that it doesn't get too bad. We'll see what happens.
Do you think?
Thank you, lad.
I
got ahead.
Before you go, answer that one question. Do you think they're going to make deals with the Greens?
Well,
being realistic.
I mean, look, where legislation really comes to play is in the lower house. That's where government introduces bills, and they've got a full majority there. Obviously, they'll have to negotiate with the Greens in the Senate. I hope that they don't give too much to the Greens, because I hate the Greens.
The question was, do you think they will?
They could do, and if they do,
you think they will?
They could do.
Not cool. But like, if you had to bet now, do you think they will?
I'm not sure, because I think Albert does remember the last time they did a deal with the Greens at the national level. It killed them for 5-6 years, right? When they did the deal under 2010 with the Gillard government, it killed them for 6-7 years. They didn't get back until 2022. So I hope that smarter people in the party will realise that the Greens are hated, and working with them will kill the party. Thanks
for joining us tonight. Where can people follow you, Drew? People who can't get enough of you.
Yeah, just Drew Pavel on all my socials. But good chat, and we'll have another debate soon, Avi and Rukshan. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, mate. Mate, you delayed his entry into his show.
I just did it for fun. Like, I was just dragging it because he was demanding that we start earlier and earlier, but we couldn't. It's hard to get. There's so much to unpack with everyone. Speaking of which, we'll continue ourselves. I wanted to go into quickly the. Listen. We were mocked, but I just want to. I was going to go into the missing ballots where we never even got into the AEC. There was this one. I'll quickly play that so you can react to this.
1,866 ballot papers from the seat of Barton were found in the home of a temporary AEC worker last week, taken home, as you've said, after the May 3rd election. Now, the Electoral Commission says it is obviously taking this very seriously and investigating exactly how this was able to happen. But essentially,
what do you reckon? They're saying that it couldn't have affected.
I know. The AEC put out a whole statement, and of course, they're investigating themselves, and you kind of wonder how these things happen. And yes, there's a process there that to try to ensure that this doesn't happen. But the public, I totally understand why people are asking questions about this and raising all sorts of eyebrows, because it is an issue with confidence in our elections that a ballot box, even if it was counted earlier, somehow ended up at a person's house in a time where it wasn't meant to be there. And I've always been someone who, since seeing the shenanigans of 2020 in the United States of America, and we're not the same in Australia, of course, our elections are very different, but it's always made me question, like, what kind of influence can individuals have on an election? And especially we've seen the margins this year, Avi, in this election, like some of the seats are won by a few hundred votes or a few thousand. So
and you're talking about 1,800 votes, and
1,800 votes,
is it possible? Is it possible it happened somewhere else, somewhere that it did matter? I don't know. I don't have that much faith in the AEC when I watch how. I'm not saying the election is rigged. Not definitely not stolen in any which way. That it's certainly. Labor won.
Comprehensive Labor.
Labor won fair and square. Even if a bunch of those marginal seats there was some dodgy business and it flipped, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't have changed anything. So Labor certainly won, but from the AEC that has spent so much time during this election and the lead up to the election, focusing on the biggest nonsense, targeting Joanna, targeting the video I posted on They've got an army of. As soon as you comment about them online, there's a immediate. Like if you post something on X,
they pop up in your comments. Yeah,
immediately they pop into your comments. They've got an army there available to do that stuff, but they can't count the votes fast. It takes like 3 days. Like if the election was much closer, sometimes it could take a few days to work out who's really won, and you see these seats going backwards and forth. Like, how is it that they are able to deal with all this nonsense, but they can't track 1,800 votes properly, or they can't count quickly? It just doesn't give me much faith in that institution.
Yeah, and the more this goes on, like there has been multiple times, even in the previous elections, where they've gone after, I believe it was the UAP at the time, for font size on one of their advertisements. They seem very politically partisan.
Right.
Towards one way, and I know they pretend like they're not, and they kind of carry themselves like they're very neutral. But a lot of the things that happen make it appear like they're very much, the people that work there at least, lean one particular way politically. And it's really hard to shake that. And this year we saw, do you remember seeing all those pictures of all these signs in different languages, and the authorization messages sometimes are almost missing on them, and you didn't see them take court action and do the crazy things that they did when it was against what was his name, Craig Kelly,
Craig Kelly,
and that went to court, and that was like they got humiliated in the court from memory, the AEC, and they wasted taxpayers' money. So the fact that we have our electoral organization that seems to be leaning one way politically, I think is concerning. And when you see incidents like this, and I know this didn't affect this particular result according to their own investigation, that's all fine, and there's checks and balances, but people are going to raise eyebrows and have questions about the integrity of our election. And I think that's only fair, and I think that's a part of the democratic process as well. And they seem very sorry in their statement, and they're profusely apologizing for this oversight. But it does make one wonder, definitely. And I don't blame anyone for wondering what goes on with the AEC.
Just quickly, a couple of super chats. Goga? How would you pronounce that?
Goga.
Problem when you put a couple of ethnics in charge. I keep telling people.
Goga.
It probably is. And another one from Goga says, "Love your work, guys. You guys are legends."
Thanks,
I hope
mate.
they weren't
Thank
talking
you.
about you and Drew before Drew left. Thank you so much. Thanks for the support. And guys, you can super chat on the super chats on our YouTube. So now I just want to get into something completely different because obviously the news came out today, the CCTV of the firebombing of the synagogue. Let's just maybe watch that first, because I want to go back and watch some of the commentary around my reporting around this story by the so-called alt media. So people who act like they want to be in the world of alternative media, but it seems like they, when they were trying to do that, they were trying to drag my name through the dirt by insinuating or straight up saying that I'm making. So we'll go through it, but let's first watch the footage from today. This is what Victoria Police and the AFP put out of the firebombing against the synagogue. We did a special emergency live feed, and that's why I'm saying, guys, make sure whatever platform you're on, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when we do emergency live feeds, you can join us live. So we did an emergency one today where we watched the press conference. It was pretty good. I'm pretty happy. I feel like we're going to get a flow to be able to break news and do it as it happens.
Sure.
But this is the car that is apparently the criminal car share
Uber
service. It's more of a car share, like it's you know how they have in the city the special parking.
Oh, yeah.
They can only park there. These guys probably have their own special parking. But it was involved in a shooting on the same night and another firebombing, which from
in
what it
November,
sounds like they were different people. But he got 3. You can see there's 3 of them. One's filming. You could see him smashing with an axe through the door. Notice that. Focus on that, because that's important when it comes to the commentary. They're pouring heaps of gasoline. Look, you can see it clear.
5 jerry cans.
Jerry cans. Yeah, they had 5 jerry cans. You could see them actually there in the boot. You can see them all there.
And 100 liters of.
Now, by the way, did you see? Did you see who they arrested in Pakenham? So they've arrested 2 people associated with the car with one of the other firebombings, which was in South Yarra. It was a couple of Sudanese guys. I'd say that they're just hired criminals, to be honest.
Hired thugs, yeah.
Hired criminals, hired thugs, and this is maybe what they are too. The difference is the guys in South Yarra are not facing terrorism charges. Whoever these guys are, potentially facing terrorism charges, which carries the federal police made.
They're going to throw the book at them. 100%.
They're going to throw the book at them, and it's the charges. The federal charges are far more serious and carry huge penalties. With one even life in prison for. I don't think anyone's getting life in prison for this, but they're going to throw the book at them. So you can see here clearly what they're doing, and you can kind of see their build. They're wearing, there's one guy with a white mask.
Almost took themselves out.
Yeah, they almost took themselves out in that one. And there were some funny comments earlier today where people were saying, look for the guys with no eyebrows. And off they went. So that was the footage, right? Now, at the time, when I was doing the reporting, there's a guy that fancies himself as I don't know, as some sort of competition to me or something. I guess, is that how would you call it? I don't know. I've met the guy in during COVID. So he was a pretty big guy in COVID, I think, or like he got arrested a couple of times crossing the border, and then he started his Australia versus the Agenda. Nowadays, he mostly hosts like the neo-Nazis. They're probably going to cut this and say, "Oh, he's calling us Nazis." Well, literally.
Look, I'm actually like Anthony from Australian Socialists. I'm actually like a fan in the sense of he does stuff like clipping videos. He does good work, like in the sense of getting stuff out there. I think during the disinformation bill, he's
clips,
like hosted.
You mean the media clips? He cuts them really quick.
Media clips, yeah. He cuts them really quick, gets it out there. Obviously, during the disinformation, I think he held like, multi-hour live streams on that and got people involved in trying to, he's politically engaged and involved in certain things. So
yeah, but I think like when you do that, you don't need to make stuff up, and you don't need to attack people while making stuff up. And what we're about to watch is him breaking down my reporting at the time, and just completely making things up, which now today's footage shows is nonsense. Look, let's watch it and react.
I saw Avi's piece on it the other day, and there's a whole bunch of holes in the guy that he interviewed at the start of the video. I think his name was Yumi Friedman, the one that had the dusty hands from the fire.
That was hilarious.
he had a story with about 15 different holes in it. Even I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Like,
Yumi's
I've
homeless.
got
If
the
you guys like
clip
Yumi's
that
homeless,
someone
he's talking
actually
about
clipped
Yumi's
it and
homeless
made
guy.
it, and then I sort of broke it down a little bit more myself, because I have the same questions as well. Like, I'm actually curious. One, has this guy been interviewed and been cross-examined on the basis of this interview with Avi? Because I just want to know that. I'm not trying to take a shot at him. He has to be interviewed. Like, freaking, if he's not interviewed and cross-examined against this content, there's a problem. And I think everyone would probably agree with that. Like,
yeah, due diligence demands that he is interviewed, if only to be removed.
I got to say, I love how this dude's eyes wide open, and
I think it's a given that the police at a scene of something like this would interview the people who were there.
He would have had to give a statement. He gave a statement.
They have to give a statement.
Of course, he got interviewed. But what they're implying here, he should be interviewed as a suspect. He should be interviewed as a suspect, as somebody who burnt down his own synagogue. Now, where's that coming from based off this interview? Let's hear the explanation as to why. Because anyone with any understanding about the Jewish community would know that there's no way in the world, we went through this in our emergency live stream. There's no way in a million years that somebody that Orthodox Jew is going to burn down his own synagogue. That's like it goes against everything in his faith. His whole life is built around serving God in a certain way, in the way that he believes. Burning the synagogue would be like, you're going straight to hell, dude. So he just wouldn't do it. Now, the insinuation that let's see why he thinks this guy may be the suspect.
As a potential suspect.
Like, he goes here, like, I'll play it. It's just
play
like,
it, dude.
It's about so many holes. It's actually stunning.
As a potential suspect, dude.
Me, this is from the police. We had a tool here around. Now my car was parked here. Suddenly, from the far there, 5 people with big flashlights screamed, "Police, stop!"
What's going on? Show me your hands!
Now, who said it's police?
Brother, I'm the one who called.
Yeah, who said it was police? But he said that he called them.
So that's the big evidence, first piece of evidence. Who said it's police? Because he's the one who's called. The guy just witnessed a car of people smash into the synagogue, blow it up.
Yeah.
And he calls police.
Yeah.
And then people charge at him, telling him to put his hand up or whatever, screaming at him, like in the dead of night, screaming at him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 5 a.m. They're all in black. I don't think it's the regular cops that were running out.
And he's like, how do I know it's not the guys that I was calling like, I just saw some dudes burning down the synagogue and I'm running away and you're telling me, how do I know you're the police? And so this is their evidence as to why. Like, because you said you just called them. So obviously you knew they were coming. That's like saying if somebody breaks into your house, like if somebody's at the front of your house and they're smashing their way in, right? And you call the police, and then the person, the thug trying to smash into your house says, "It's the police, open up." And you scream back down, "How do I know you're the police? Because there was another guy just smashing into my house." There is no sense.
I think they're taking natural reactions from a normal member of the public reacting to a situation where they feel like they're in danger, and adding a context to it that is not really there.
And there's a reason, and you know what?
Unless you want to have that context added for your own particular flavor.
And the thing that's important, and this is a guy that since that day has been just sitting there literally with proud neo-Nazis. I know he's going to cry that I keep saying that, but the fact is, he sits on panels and he doesn't have them on his chat on his streams to challenge their ideas. He has them on his feed to agree with him, to amplify him, to support him, to have their support. So he's
I've listened to what you're saying, Avi, and I think the way that it's portrayed by Oz Agenda and what he says is it's more about giving, being a free speech absolutist, because these Nazis have been silenced.
Sure.
Therefore,
I have had the Nazis on.
He's going to give them the platform to speak their views which
unchallenged.
We remember when
Agreeing
Sam
with
Newman
him.
did it. Yeah, Sam Newman did it, and he
No,
challenged them. Definitely.
No.
It's different. I'm just saying it is being different. Okay?
No,
the approach is
but the
very
difference,
different.
the difference matters. When Sam Newman did it, I defended him because when he did it, he was mocking him and in his way challenging him. When this guy's doing it, he's not challenging him. He's not mocking him. He's helping him garner any sort of recruitment. He is back. He agrees with what they're saying. So there's a big difference because once you do that, then you are one of them. Whether you're not, if you don't consider yourself as part of their group, but you're there backing them, it doesn't matter if you're not officially part of it. It's a bit like me during COVID. If you want to say, so the problem the police had with me during that period is that I was reporting, but I was giving them a platform and I wasn't really challenging the people protesting the restrictions because to me, I agree. I supported what they were doing. I agree with them. Not every single action. And when we saw things that people were out of line, called it out. But I'm talking about the idea of pushing back again. And I'm happy to say now that from the back end, we were probably inciting it in our own way because I supported those people.
No comment. No comment.
And you were doing that. But that's the thing.
No, I get your point. I get your point. I definitely get your point. But I think
and so
on the right, I just want to say this, on the right of the Australian political spectrum, because of all these attacks against free speech, there is a group within the right of Australian politics who have just become free speech absolutists, and it has led them down a path. I'm sure you can find other examples. Led them down a path where the arguments for free speech comes at the cost of not accepting the nuances in the public sphere of what their platforms potentially could do when you have certain types of speech unchallenged on those platforms. And I think that's what you're coming down to.
Yeah, so unchallenged, and where you're telling your audience.
I don't always think it's a bad thing, is what I'm trying to say. I think it's just this kind of misunderstanding that people have about what their platforms mean. Because I would not like those National Socialists, like they're always telling me to debate Joel Davis. He's always tagging me on my post, debate me. And the reason I don't debate him, because it's just ridiculous to begin with. Like, what am I going to debate him on? Like, who cares about it? He's insane views.
They should deport you back to.
Yeah, what is that debate? What is that debate? Obviously, I'm going to have a different opinion to him, and it's not really a debate. They're after something else. But the reason I don't do it is because to platform individuals like that, I don't agree with, in the sense of they can go speak elsewhere. Yes, there's limits on their speech, but at the end of the day, they're still free to go out there and speak in other ways, and people can listen to them if they want to. And there is going to be people who are not happy about this, and I get that. And they can go on, people like Oz versus Agenda. He's happy to platform them, but I'm not personally, because these people want to deport me, and I don't give a crap about them. Like, I'm not going to waste my time talking to them. They can go speak somewhere else. That's the way I view it. Yeah. And I definitely get what you're saying.
Look, I guess in this context,
I think it's a wider problem. Than just.
But I think in this context of us watching this, the reason why it's important to point that out is because this guy, he hasn't Australians versus the agenda. He has an agenda, and his agenda is he wants to blame the Jews. And it becomes clear in what he's saying. He wants to blame the Jews for the crime that happened against him. We'll continue watching. Let's just read a couple of the super chats, guys. Get into the super chats on YouTube. Stu, welcome back, mate. Loose lips sink ships. What was that in reference to?
That must be in reference to.
I can't remember, but thank you, Stu. Thank you, Stu. I probably should get when somebody comments something like that, I should just take notes so that I remember what they're talking about. What do we got? National Socialist housing strat equals more living space. Bullet head 95. This sounds.
Bullet could be a groper with his.
It sounds like a groper. He's done twice. He's done $2. What would Jordan describe his struggle?
As he struggled. That's Jordan Vanderlam.
Yeah, so he's talking about Jordan Vanderlam there. So that seems like I don't know.
I mean, there are people that says he comes from like a privileged place, and his parents are well off, and all these things.
He seems as privileged as they come.
he's a wealthy, like, South African migrant or whatever. People say all these things online, and that's why I'd actually like him to come on and tell us. And speak across the political aisle.
But that's the point. Like, that's a perfect example. Like, those guys are radical. Yeah, they are radical. They are extremists, and they are exactly the same as the National Socialists. They're just the other side of the spectrum. They're the same. I think that I think Jordan van der Lam and the Victorian Socialists are probably more dangerous than the National Socialists, because most people look at the National Socialists. That's why I think good on that kid for hosting him, because most people look at them as clowns. You discredit yourself by agreeing with them, right? But the Victorian Socialists, they get onto mainstream TV and nobody ever really challenges them. Although the last time he did go on because of the backfiring of that person's house, he did for once get challenged by Waleed. But generally, they go on mainstream TV. Nobody ever really challenges them. So I would welcome them onto our show, onto our platform, to debate them about it, to actually challenge their ideas. That would be very different than if I brought them on to talk about, taking over people's houses, and then by them being on my platform where I'm saying whether I say it direct or insinuate or don't push back, I'm telling my followers it's a good idea to go to random empty houses and take them over to other people's houses and steal their stuff. Yeah. That's the difference. That's the problem. So having people on your show is fine. You could have the worst person in the world on your show. That is literally what journalism is. But if they have bad ideas, you need to challenge those ideas. You can't just let them sit there, say their things, and you nod along in support. Because if you do that, you are just one of them.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like you pointed out there very clearly, Avi, that journalists interview people like Tucker Carlson will go interview Putin and so on. And some people say,
if I was around in Nazi Germany, I would have wanted to interview Hitler. That would be the interview of a lifetime. You think I would sit there and tell him I agree with what he... the interview in itself, by definition, doesn't mean you support him. But a good journalist needs to challenge everyone, even people they mostly agree with. You need to speak truth to power. Super chat from Brett, our friend, who says, Avi, I was chatting with an English mate and he reminded me when you debated Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa at Hyde Park. We reckon you should do it again. Look, it's funny you mentioned that, because I did that many years ago and I was a lot more, I guess, fresh, and I look back at that period of time and watch some of the content that I created and I cringe a little bit, which I think is good because I think it shows growth.
Yeah, it's part of the process.
But I would do it very, very differently now, and I would engage them. The problem is those guys haven't grown from when, their platforms have grown immensely.
In their belief system, in their
behavior. If anything, they've regressed. They're worse. I look back at the way I behaved at that time, and we're talking about 2017, 2000, around then. So 8 years ago, whatever it is. And I look back and I think, I was so obnoxious, and I still am loud and obnoxious, but I feel like when I get into a conversation now, I want to hear them out. I want to listen, and then I want, but it's very hard because they're very vicious. They're very aggressive. They stand over you physically. Anyways, one day, hopefully I will get the chance. I don't know if you ever caught those videos. I don't think I'll go back and watch them because they are slightly...
I've watched them all to study Avi Yemeni. So there you go. Enemy. Study Avi Yemeni.
All right, let's keep watching this one. Let's react to the full thing. Let's see how much nonsense he spews.
Wait, what? And then I think there's another part.
And there's also something crazy at all the synagogues down in Melbourne, and because I'm from down there and I used to live in the areas where a lot of synagogues were. There's no dramas, peaceful, nice little suburbs. It's not low socioeconomic around those areas. I can assure you that. There's no need for cash. They've got plenty of cash, mate. There's Bentleys in driveways and everything, right?
Yeah.
But
this is where half the hate stems from, is success. Imagine just being jealous of success. And the funny thing is, my stepdaughter, when tells my wife, you know this, in the early days, she goes, "Mum, why did you manage to hook up with the poorest Jew?" It's
that's what I think as well. Like, like I should be loaded by now just from knowing you.
But there's a very large spectrum there, and yes, those are successful communities because I think the Jewish community do take pride in success, and they strive for success. But it doesn't mean there aren't a lot of poor Jews. You're looking at one.
All of these synagogues and all the Jewish schools in that region, in Caulfield and Balaclava down in Melbourne, man, they've got security 24/7 on the gates. There's security out there, and they've got CCTV systems out the yin-yang, dude, pointing both ways down the street. And all of the houses along those streets where the synagogues are and where these Jewish schools are, the people who live in all of those houses, they're all Jewish people, man. It's like it's a Jewish enclave, and there's nothing wrong with it. We have enclaves all around Australia, but that's where they live, man. They'll go walking down there. So all of these cameras and all the houses leading up to it, all of those people have cameras as well, man.
So firstly, fact check, like the armed guards, they do have armed guards outside the synagogues and schools during school hours and during synagogue hours. There is not 24-hour armed guards at any synagogue or any school. That is just a fabrication. Made that up. He's seen some security guards there during hours, and he just said that. And the funny thing is, this shows his ignorance on the Jewish community in itself. This particular synagogue, we talked about the other one. They're not the Zionist one. They're ultra Orthodox. And because a lot of the armed guards, especially at the synagogue, so when you talk about, forget about the schools are paid armed guards, and actually their specific school, so they have a school also attached to them, not at that location, just down the road. They don't have armed guards, but all the other Jewish schools do have armed guards during school hours. All the synagogues, except for this synagogue, has an armed guard. This synagogue doesn't have armed guards because the armed guards are they're Jewish volunteers, and these guys don't believe, because the armed guards by definition, so they have walkie-talkies and they have a weapon on them, whatever. So there's a bunch of things that they're holding that on the Sabbath they would be breaking the laws of Sabbath. Now most of the other synagogues believe that when it comes to personal protection, security, you're allowed to break the Sabbath for security, and that's why you're allowed to serve in the army or whatever. These guys don't believe that that's true, so they don't agree to it. So they don't have armed guards at all. This particular synagogue never has armed guards, but it's a fallacy. But you wouldn't know that. You would only know, you know the little bit of piece of information, and if you want to stick it onto these Jews, like you want.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stereotyping going on throughout this conversation.
Yeah.
So
there's
and it's not obviously. There's certain things that are stereotypical of, South Asian communities, for instance, but I know personally that doesn't apply broadly to everyone. So, and I imagine it's the same thing within the Jewish community.
Exactly.
But
like if you know if you understand it, and the thing is, you've got to remember here, they're questioning my reporting of it when I do know the intricate details of the Jewish community. It's one of the issues that I actually know naturally because I grew up in it.
No way these cameras haven't caught these perpetrators arriving and then departing. There is no way. And I'm talking from distance as well. I'm talking not from just in the front. I'm talking from hundreds of meters away leading into there.
Yeah, but his story is weird because, like, he says that he saw people slamming these doors. These are outward-facing doors.
The problem here, Avi, is the assumption made here by these guys is that that's the actual door. When
and I don't actually, if we look at it, right?
The building is on, like, it goes.
I think it's the other side.
Corner block. It's the other side, and I think a lot of the time people made these assumptions about just from inferring things. That's the other side of the building. So
it's the other side of the building, correct? So they they just jump to here. Let's maybe I could put it next to each other so you can see. I lost it. So here, if you look at it next to it, so if you know the synagogue, like I know the synagogue, you know that this here is down the road and around the corner. This is technically the front entrance, right? But it was the side entrance that they went through. It was because there's two kind of buildings. This is actually part of the other building. And that's how bad it was. That you can see that it was blackened already, like here.
Yeah.
When it was almost, it's kind of the other building. So the fire was huge. But again, you got to understand the motivation here. Like, why would you be saying that? Why would they be saying that? Like, you don't have any evidence that's different. You just want to cast doubt on it because you don't want to believe the story.
What is it? Sledgehammers. I don't know, man. They don't look like they've been battered by sledgehammers.
Dude, it doesn't happen.
Bro, what doesn't happen?
The doors open outwards. How do you bash them open with a sledgehammer?
Yeah, and the hinges look like they're fine. These doors look like they're sitting perfectly. If you wanted to batter a door that looks like this, that's coming outside, I think your best bet is to smash the hinges to try to rip the door off.
Expert at everything here. Do you want it, guys?
Rather than trying to go from the middle. From the middle, I don't think you can have any luck.
Well, you'd see impacts in the exterior of the door.
Yeah.
From the face of the sledgehammer smashing into it, because it's not like the first strike is going to just bust it open, then it's going to spring back and open up like that as well.
Zero credibility. Zero.
And also the glass on either sides of it.
What's happened here is there's been witnesses, because of course the CCTV footage has shown it, but the reason that police know it's sledgehammers and so on is because either they had seen the footage that day, whatever, or someone else had looked at the footage from the
witness.
The witness, yeah, that's what I was going to say. The witness actually saw the sledgehammers and said sledgehammers, but they
rejected his testimony.
They reject his evidence that he's given from someone that was actually there and witnessed the attack. They fully said, well, he's making up the thing about sledgehammers. Doesn't make sense. And the logical conclusion in that is, well, maybe it was through another door or another side of the building. I mean, there's nothing in that video or anywhere else where people said that this is the door. It was just an open door. So again, you're just kind of coming up with your own assumptions based on.
And the thing is, like, you know what? You could have gone there like I went there, and you would have known you're looking at a different door. You would have known that. But you're sitting there in your studio, and you're rejecting the evidence given by somebody who was there in the morning. In fact, you're pointing at him saying he might actually be responsible for it. And then you're also doing a distant investigation from your computer where if you just looked at other photos, you would know. Like, you didn't even have to go there. There was so much footage from out the front in those few days on all mainstream media. You would have seen that there's two entrances because there was a lot of media at the side entrance where they were all getting their bags and that. You see the door that they're showing here, and then you can see when they zoom up to the front of it, it's one's got a ramp and the other one's got it just looks completely different. But again,
rest assured that is like safety glass.
They're not
super
after the
strong
truth.
stuff.
So he goes. The cops scream at him and they go, "Why are you scared?" And he goes, I'm scared. He goes, why? I said in the video, why are you scared? Because you called them. You wouldn't be scared if you called them. And then he says, oh, once they realize that I'm a Jew, then they left me alone. So I thought
I'm not guilty. I'm not guilty.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of like whatever. Throwaway is a bit of a deflection. It's like, okay.
Hey, dude, you're wearing a balaclava. A bank robbery's just happened. No, but bro, I sell balaclavas. Oh, cool, man. Cool. Yep. No more questions to ask. No jumps.
Yeah.
What happened to your hands? Oh, nothing, man. I'm okay.
And I saw it.
What are they trying to say there?
I mean, because his hands, he shows his hands at one point, and they're kind of burnt or blackened by him trying to enter the building. Now, again, I think the problem here is they're making these assumptions that the only reason that someone's hands would be blackened by the heat of the fire or whatever from touching a door is because they were trying to. They themselves are starting the fire. But I know from seeing multiple news stories that when a house fire starts or something, people generally try to go back into the house to save someone or save something, and in the process they can hurt themselves. So it's not uncommon for people to enter a building that's on fire or try to exit a building that's on fire and get burnt. Like, this happens.
But it's funny when he laughs and he's mocking at the fact that he's saying I'm Jewish. Why was the guy saying I'm Jewish?
No, I think he's saying that he's just being like, oh, well, I'm Jewish, so I definitely couldn't have done this. So,
Yeah, I didn't burn down my synagogue because I'm a Jew. To me, that's the holiest place. That is the holies of holies. Like, that's the most important place to me in Melbourne is that synagogue. That's where God resides. That's where I go to. That's where I'm at 4 a.m. praying and studying. So the ignorance on these guys, and I don't know if it's on purpose. I feel it's like it's they're reading into the story because they want a specific outcome, and they're taking this one poor guy that had a shocking experience. Like, just for a moment, try to think about it if you were in that position, like you were at your place of worship or somewhere early in the morning, your gym. Let's say if you're not a religious person, you were at your gym, but the gym's not even a fair comparison because you don't, your gym, like if it started burning and there was no one in there, you wouldn't run in to save anyone or anything. Like he would have run in to save his religious artifacts. Like that's what this means to them. It's like, it's the world. It's their entire life. This guy, his entire life is his religion. That's why he looks the way he looks. That's why I don't look like that, because it's not my entire life. And so the idea that you would go, that he would say, I'm a Jew because, like, why would I do that? And then you mock, it shows you're either willingly ignorant or you're malicious. Like, you know what he's saying. You know what he's saying. You know what he was saying to the police. You know how the police would have understood it. You got to remember, this is like police in the local area who, unlike these two, work within the Jewish community 24/7, so they understand when somebody says, I'm Jewish, I couldn't have done it. It's not like I'm Jewish, so I don't commit crimes. It's like, I'm Jewish, I wouldn't burn down a synagogue. I'm Muslim, I wouldn't burn down my mosque. What are you? Catholic, I wouldn't burn down the church. That's what he's saying. And you laughing at it either shows you're ignorant or you're malicious. And you're definitely not searching for truth.
I saw a few comments on a post when I put this up. Someone goes, there's a thing where this certain I'm not trying to be rude or anything. I can't remember the terminology exactly.
Yes, you're right.
But apparently, like they have a thing where they're like against the use of technology. But then he has this story where he ran back inside to get his phone. It doesn't make sense. Like, why would the police let you run back in to get your phone if it's on fire?
Do we want to just play the whole thing from the start, the whole way through? We might as well just do that.
He's confusing it. He's conflating the Shabbat thing on Shabbat. On Saturday, you can't use your phone, but whatever. But those guys actually can, because you're allowed to use it. He's part of Hatzalah, which is the local ambulance, Jewish ambulance service, which is a community ambulance. All volunteers. They're just like doctors, or they have medical training, first aid responders. So a local one. So they have phones, but like, that's the thing. He's just trying to throw in different things to make you question the story. Why would you go in for your phone?
Upset me. This is from the police. We had a Sula here around. Now my car was parked here. Suddenly, from the far there, 5 people with big flashlights, cramps. Police, stop! Now, who said it's police?
I'm the one who called.
Yeah, we watched that, mate.
They didn't wear yellow jacket, they wear black. They came with big guns. And they came and arrested us. And don't move. I said, you see, does it look like I did this? We're from Atsula. I was inside here.
So you know that. So the police know what Hatzalah is. Hatzalah is a local, like I said, the first aid responders are volunteer Jewish first aid responders. They answer to any calls. Anyone who calls them within the area, that you don't have to be Jewish. Anyone that has a number. It's actually, it's one of the best places in Melbourne to live, because within under a minute, max 2 minutes, you'll have usually doctors there. And I've had it, like I've used them before, and it's incredible, because sometimes in Melbourne you'll wait an hour for an ambo. There you'll have someone there within 2 minutes, and they have all the equipment, and then they wait until the ambulance come. And I have seen these same guys have mocked the fact that there is a Jewish ambulance. They say, why do they need their own Jewish ambulance? Mate, it's a community that gets together and people volunteer. It's an initiative, and guess what? Anybody can call them, and they will come for anyone. They don't ask you if you're Jewish when you call. So everybody who lives in the local area knows that. And you shouldn't be tearing people down for that. You should be elevated. We should see that in every Australian community. It's like a neighborhood.
We have a pretty bad ambulance system in Victoria. Exactly. So if any community can have their own, I mean, props to them, because it's pretty woeful for Victorians that the government.
But it's a first aid response. It's like, they're not an ambulance service, so they don't take you to the hospital.
Yeah, of course.
I'm the one to call. Yeah. Why not? I'm scared. I'm scared.
Look at him laughing. He thinks it's funny that something
took them a while to realise that we're Jewish, and we didn't do this.
It took them a while to realise you're Jewish.
Yeah, it took them a while to realise that, maybe you didn't do it.
What eventually gave it away to the detectives that you're Jewish?
What does it look like? What happened?
Deflection. I didn't even read what he put on the screen. It's a deflection. Yes, it's a deflection. Okay, mate. So there is no correlation between the guy being visibly Jewish and the idea of him definitely not burning down his own place of worship.
I was sitting and learning. I was Mother Sedra. You know what that means? Going through the Sedra.
This guy here, what he said last night.
I just jumped out of my seat and I ran. When I came back to the hall, after talking to the police, I smelled some fire. I thought, shit, they're burning the place down. It wasn't that hot yet. So I opened the door to go inside to get my phone and my tefillin, but I burnt my hands.
These comments.
Doing that, so I decided I'm not going to go in.
I mean,
and when I came out, I saw another person out here.
What did you say?
There's varying degrees of hot. Like it could mean like he didn't think it was like dangerous to enter in the sense of
like you're going second by second through the mind of somebody who's got an adrenaline dump. His place of worship, the place that he spent his whole life going every day, 3 times a day. And that he was in there studying and praying, and now you're going second by second trying to figure out catch him up on this lie.
So he saw them. They went inside with jerry cans, big cans of petrol or something, and he screamed at them and they ran away.
This whole story's got so many holes in it. I hope that they've cross-examined him.
This story has so many holes in it. What did he say?
Let's have a look at the footage.
Let's watch the footage, Mr. Independent Journalist, questioning everything the Jews say, because it must be them. Why? It was Avi. Avi set it all up. Let's watch it. So many holes. He said they had jerry cans. Oh, what's that in the back? What did he just pass him? Like something to bash the door. Whoa. Hole number 1. So they questioned that. They said that wasn't true. They said that wasn't possible. Here, we see it. It happened. Jerry can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jerry cans. 2. So what else did he question? Whether the guy himself did it.
Yeah.
I guess that's the implication, that the guy himself did it. Guaranteed none of these guys are that guy. They got a completely different body build. Oh, look at those jerry cans. So many holes in it. Listen, being an independent journalist does not mean, question everything, fine. But if you're going to question things, that's not questioning things. That's not going, okay, are we getting to that? I've wanted for months, I've been campaigning and pushing the police to give us answers, because it makes no sense that we have no answers. I'm so glad the footage is out now to show how full of it these guys are, because their whole business model is just to throw the questions out there, not to dig up the truth, not to find out what really happened, but to just put a question on any narrative. So in this case, it was the mainstream narrative, because the Jewish guy that was the victim of it is saying he saw it. So if you have some compelling other evidence to enter that casts some doubt on what the guy is saying, some actual evidence, not the wrong door and not your misunderstanding of the Jewish community, but actual evidence, then go and question something or go to the press conference. But these guys were not after the truth.
I think it's a like this. There are instances where, let's say, like a tobacco shop is burnt out. You can make certain assumptions based on the history of these things happening.
Sure.
You can speculate. You can speculate a lot more clearer
because you're basing it on actually something that's factual.
There's like kind of this evidence that kind of backs it up. It's happened multiple times, but this is really the first time I think in Australia we've seen a synagogue burnt out like this. And I think just to jump to the conclusion that the Jews did it in a way by asking the questions, by speculating on it, by asking questions, did these Jews do it? And then I think a lot of the right that were commenting on this were saying that, well, the Jews were doing it to, make sure that they can get their
to garner sympathy,
and get laws against anti-Semitism and get all this stuff pushed through and change the laws to favor them.
I only watched up until about this.
No, I'm not saying in this particular video, but I'm just saying in general, that's the conversation. That's where it goes. Like, that's why the Jews were doing it and burning their own synagogue. Like, that's what people are saying. Like, it's, and I'm reading that stuff as well. And this is people on the right. But at that moment in Australia, like, it's a very new thing. There's no evidence to suggest that this has happened, in Australia.
If you have evidence of it, then show it. But just to say it, so when people come in with those allegations and they say that's their first reaction, to not believe the victim of something that just does, it makes less sense that they would burn it down because of all the reasons we mentioned. It is their holiest place. Like, why would they not target something less holy? Like, why don't they target a kindergarten? If they want mass effect, target a school or a Jewish school or a Jewish kindergarten that doesn't hold the holy value to the Jew, but is still something that's a Jewish community center. That's not a synagogue. The fact that they do that should make you go, okay, that doesn't really, like, or at least go and try find some evidence if you really want it to be the Jews' fault. But to jump at it like this, where you're basically saying, no, he is saying, I don't believe this guy's story. There are too many holes. None of it makes any sense. And now we have the footage, and it is exactly how the guy described it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Word for word almost.
And okay, and you know what? Fine, you got it wrong. Are these two clowns now going to go back up there and apologize to this victim for casting doubt on his story, on his victim impact statement on the day? Will they say, oh no, we got it wrong? No, because they're not accountable to anything. And that is a kind of a problem in the alternative media space, is because nobody believes the mainstream media on anything anymore. And I understand why. I don't, right? But the same problems we had in the mainstream media is even worse now in the alternative media, because at least in the mainstream media, like, as corrupt as their system is and as hard, but there are, meant to be independent bodies that you can, and I've done it. I've forced them to put retractions and to correct the record when something like this happens, 100%. But in alternative media, there's no such thing. These guys would, on the day, for clout, questioning this guy's story, his witness testimony. They questioned everything so that they could push their agenda. The Australians versus the agenda had their agenda. So it was, and now when it all turns out to be proven that you were full of it, you would just make it. You're what do they call a couch? What do they call it? Couch expert. You're just sitting at home.
Armchair experts.
Yeah, like an armchair expert sitting there on your computer, zooming into the wrong door, making statements about a community that you have no idea how they operate, talking about their different rules. You don't know anything. And now that you're proven completely wrong in the grandest way, because the footage is so clear that the exact things that you said were holes are proven to be true. And you know what? The most important thing for me in this story and doing this live feed is that people watching this realize that you need to critically think, and even critically think when it comes to your favorite internet personalities, including me and Rukshan.
I definitely think so. Yeah.
Like, do not take, just because you watch these people and you think, oh, they were so good, they went against the agenda during COVID, or they agreed with me on one thing, that they're not going to ever lie to you. They're going to lie to you. These clickbait. There's a bunch of reasons. I don't know if I really have to explain it. Like, people do it just for internet clout, to grow a platform. Being anti-Jewish has grown platforms immensely lately. So there is just that incentive. Whether they truly just don't like Jews, well, I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. He's a Lebanese guy that is hosting all these neo-Nazis now, like proud neo-Nazis. So if I had to bet, yeah, he probably doesn't like Jews very much. So is it a mix of his agenda, like his worldview, plus the fact that he can get internet clout? What's actually motivating? I don't know. The point is, you as the viewer, your job is to critically think. You can listen to anyone, but then don't take that, fact check it. Go look for yourself. And if they're just like that was the easiest one. You could have zoomed into Google Maps and seen the two doors. I put up a thingo chat, but you just wouldn't shut up, so I couldn't get it. What have we got?
Let me read it.
Yeah, read it.
Riot. This is from Dame Dole Adem. I'm gonna get told off for the way I read these names.
Dame Dole and me. Dame Dole Adami. I don't know, mate. Too bad.
Dame Dollar Dame. Ryan of Outlaw Media is calling out Avi. So someone's calling you out, Avi.
Get in line, Ryan from Outlaw Media. What's Outlaw Media? I don't
know, but I think we got to get these people that are calling you out onto the show.
100%. We got to start bringing these people on. And we have It's Beer O'Clock for David McBride. Stu, thank you again for
Thanks, Stu.
The super chat. Let's
interviewed him and cross-examined him again against this interview, this content here, because it's outrageous. Like, I don't know, maybe he was just scared and you can't remember everything.
What?
I reckon we can move on from these guys. I think we've
no. I want to watch the end of this. This is too funny now. Like, you know what's so funny here is that the guy was proven so right, and these guys have egg on their face, and I want everyone to hear every word they said, so that you can look back, you can refer to the actual CCTV of the night, and you know what? Shame on the police for not putting that footage out immediately, so that these clowns could have been exposed at the time for making shit up. For making shit up in the name of alternative media. These are the guys that give us a bad name.
It's a bit of a shock factor.
What'd you say?
No, I never once thought that those cameras weren't not working. I assumed that the police had that footage straight away. It doesn't make sense that an organization like that would not have functioning cameras, especially given the heightened situation. I'm not saying there was any direct threats, but just in general, I think those kind of places have their cameras rolling all the time because of, graffiti or whatever, like anything that can happen. So I always assumed that there was footage from the incident. I just didn't know what the footage showed and if the cameras got the people.
Like a normal person, you were waiting to find out. You wanted to see it before jumping to an actual. And it's not jumping to, like, the first conclusion that makes sense to jump to is to believe the witness that was there, that the police say is not a suspect. That's the first thing to believe. Now, to go beyond that, so to dig deeper, well, go dig deeper. We actually went door to door that morning trying to find who had CCTV because I wanted to see what happened.
Probably lean towards that, but I don't know. I'm skeptical as well. I'm like, man, this doesn't make sense.
The easiest way to have some clarity there with him potentially as a suspect and to remove all doubt is once again simply for him to say, this is the time I arrived. This is the
dude, you're a clown.
The location that I came from.
Watch the CCTV. Everything he said was
true. And then just pull up all the CCTV
was bullshit.
From the surrounding houses
your
on
eyes,
the way
close
there.
your eyes, you
and he
clown.
can say, that's me driving there at this time. Because they know what time the flame started. Because once again, there's CCTV on the premises.
There is CCTV.
They know to the
It
second
makes you look like a dickhead.
when the individuals rocked up at that door and swung the alleged sledgehammer the very first time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's all right there. And they've got timestamps for this, bro. So,
let's watch the sledgehammer. Listen,
I don't know why they're laughing. I don't know why they're laughing at the what the witness described as the weapon. Like, there's massive probability that he's 100% correct. I don't know why it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that they use sledgehammers.
Like, they're mocking the most basic thing, and now like zero credibility on anything. These guys should not be listened to about anything. You can't, if they tell you what the weather is outside, don't believe them, because they'll question everything, and even if it is clear as day, they will do, unless, let's see, maybe tomorrow he's got to do a live stream and it should be, sorry, I was wrong. Where was the sledgehammer? It was a bit earlier, wasn't it? Yeah, let's get the sledgehammer. There was a passing of the sledgehammer. There's a sledgehammer, mate, that you're laughing at. There. Boom. Sledgehammer. Whoa, what's that? Sledgehammer again. Yes. I'm glad you're getting into wanting to go back and watch it and enjoy it.
It's very easy for him to say this wasn't me and to prove it so, because the CCTV will confirm that I arrived after the fact, or I was already there and I arrived long before it. And here's my attire. You can see me. I didn't take off a jacket or something like that. I walked in wearing exactly what I'm wearing, standing here with Harvey.
Like, I'm listening to this now.
And you'd want to do that. Why wouldn't
I'm listening to this now. I'm listening to all this now. And this is just at that moment, even at that time, this is a non-story to go after this guy. It's a non-story.
They went after this guy based on nothing.
On absolutely not. It's a non-story. Like it's, if the police were suspicious, yes, they would have said something and done their job. But as it stands, if someone came to your house and burnt it down, or there was something like that happened, and you said that, the police, of course, they would do their required checks and stuff like this. But you're not automatically the suspect. That doesn't make you the suspect.
You're definitely not automatically the suspect, and something has to trigger police into thinking you're going to be the suspect.
Well, they're
like
saying
an insurance job.
The burnt hands. They're saying like the hands that were darkened.
Yes.
But that's all
easily explained because there was a fire.
Exactly.
But the funny thing is, they're mocking the story. That's what's so crazy in this. It's like the ultimate gaslighting. They're mocking the story of this guy, which made total sense. And now today, that's why I want to watch the whole thing. I want I want them to eat every single word.
Reasonable person.
I'm gonna fix my camera.
To say, listen,
What are you doing?
I'm just gonna fix my camera. I'll just blur myself and pause it. But you can keep playing. I'm still here. I can hear everything.
Why are you blurring? What's wrong with? What is that?
That's just a paused image. I'm just fixing something on my camera.
You have a paused image,
mate. I'm ready for everything.
What? I want a paused image. Are you doing something inappropriate there? Can I see you better show us your hands after. I want to see that there's no black on there.
You guys to actually just say, this wasn't us. We didn't perpetrate this. This was none of us. Here's all the people that were in attendance. This is where we all came from.
They literally did that.
And this is the time we arrived. So clearly it wasn't us. And these guys were the bad guys. And this is the vehicle they arrived in. This is the direction they arrived from. That's the direction they fled to, etc., etc.
One thing that I know from experience, and it's 100% fact in my mind.
In your mind.
When the police...
I can't wait to hear what this 100% fact in his mind is. Ruksha, come back on. I need somebody to laugh with me at this.
Police were pursuing me to try to find me when I was on the run in Sydney when I crossed the border from Queensland to New South Wales. They had an entire task force, probably more potent than the one that they've sprung up for this anti-Semitism task force with the ASP. They were pinging every single cell tower that I was nearby. The reason why I got a charge, where the charge is like providing incorrect evidence to the police, is because I wasn't trying to misguide the police. I genuinely saw people following me in unmarked cars and unmarked vans, and I was genuinely worried. I'm like, why are these white Holdens that look like they've got tinted windows following me? Like, I'll never forget the white Holden. I'll never forget it. I think I was in like the forest in Blacktown, and I just see these cars following me. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is an empty street. There's no one around here.
You felt like Jason Bourne, man, when the CIA is following him, chasing him through the streets.
There's no way that they can't
what's he
find
saying,
these
though? I
guys.
don't
If
get
they
what
can
he's
deploy a
saying. What's
task
the
force
point
to
of what he's
find an
saying?
idiot like me during COVID, they can find these guys. And I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna actually. It's not that they're not going to find them. I think they already know who they are. They're just going to try to push as much like propaganda into pumping dollars towards them, towards their cause, and hope that people forget about it in the wash.
Well, here's a fair.
So wait, now I'm confused because I thought the lead suspect in their eyes was the Jew. now he's saying in his mind, but it's fact in his mind. I like that saying. This is 100% fact in my mind. I don't know if he knows the definition.
It's a bit all over the place for sure. It's a bit all over the place.
It's leaving the door open for a different conspiracy. Like literally. Not everything is a conspiracy. That's the thing. Like some people went down rabbit holes in COVID where, you can't even trust anything that anyone tells you because everything is a lie and everyone is always lying at you. No, some people do get attacked. Some people don't like Jews, including a lot of the people that you platform and maybe even yourself. Like, it's not that wild. Like, sometimes it is what it looks like.
No, yeah, definitely.
Question to ask, and I don't know if it's. I don't know what the answer.
Was that? Oh no, sorry, that was me. I lost my headphone here, mate. You've ruined my set now. What's going on? I don't have any fancy.
No, because I haven't set up my proper camera yet. So the camera that I've got was running out of battery, so I had to change the battery.
Oh,
really, just asking the question. What if they were able to determine this was a self-inflicted attack by some people that thought that this was necessary because of anti-Semitism is on the rise here, so they're willing to take these extraordinary measures to force and compel the government to enact certain things so they could be afforded.
I like though, if you notice what happened, because what's his name? What's his name?
Ben, I think.
No, the one on top.
Anthony.
Anthony went a bit off script for a second because he goes, I know from fact in my mind that if they wanted to, they could catch these guys because they caught me before. So they for sure know who these guys are. And which is kind of implying that it's not the Jews, like it's someone else, unless he's saying, no, they would know it was those guys if they wanted to know. They just don't want to. And this bottom guy, Ben?
Yeah, I believe, yep.
Ben is like, no, hold on. It's probably the Jews. He had to bring it back into, no. A lot of people are saying it was probably them doing it
for protection
to themselves.
And then what if the police were acutely aware of that? What if they had the evidence of that? And what if they were able to convey that message to the government as well? Would the government, in that instance, reveal that information?
Or they don't need it. They don't need extra powers. They don't need extra money. They don't need anything. The fact that they've declared it a terrorist event now, I think, waives their ability to claim it on insurance as well.
And it falls under national security then. So technically things can be classified or be withheld from the Australian population.
Yeah.
And therefore, would it be very good PR for the government to come out and say, listen, sorry guys, as horrible as this thing was, it was actually perpetrated by people who were members of it. There's no way that they would come forward, even if they knew that was the truth, and reveal that side of the story. There would be so much pushback against them from people who are very influential with government officials already that we would never know. And so this might just end up being a giant mystery. It'll be an enigma. We never catch the perpetrators. They just disappeared. They're fleeting phantoms, man. They're like Bin Laden hiding in caves, and before you know about it, he turned up in Pakistan 15 years later. But I guess transparency and the curiosity of the Australian population demands that we find the culprits for this. Because, of course, naturally, reasonable people, decent people that live in our communities, we want to know who these bad guys are. And if they did perpetrate an attack such as this, hey, they deserve to be locked up, man.
There you go.
Some sensible words. I think what he was saying towards the end was that if it was the Jews, you'd never find out. You'd never know if it was the Jews.
He's saying if it was the Jews, you'll never find out because they control the government. you've certainly been paying attention to the last year and a half. Yes, the Jewish community certainly controls the Labor government. That's why, for the first time in Australian history, the Jewish community overwhelmingly voted against Labor for the first time. It was always overwhelmingly for Labor. I think it was 20-80, now it's 80-20. It's like literally flipped against Labor. So the idea that the Jewish community is controlling the Labor Party is laughable. But his whole spiel is like, they'll never tell you it was them because they control the government, but you know, these people deserve to be found out. If somebody commits that kind of horrific crime, he's saying it in the context of saying it is like implying that it's the Jews. So you're never going to find out, but we should find out. And that's the whole. That was the whole commentary of. That was the point of the commentary of this entire breakdown of my video. Was Avi's interview proves that the Jews did it, and they're never going to tell you, and there should be CCTV, and you're never going to see it, and everything this guy is saying is a lie, and you'll never find out because they're protecting the Jews. Well, guess what? We found out. We've finally got the footage. And yes, and they will, you know what? They're definitely going to catch the guys that were there that night in the car, the 3 guys. They will catch them now.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
I think they're pretty close now.
They are very close to that. I am hopeful that they catch the people that put them up to it, because it looks like they got paid to do it. And I'm sure the motive there is of a terrorist nature. Does that mean we need new legislation? No. I'm the first one to tell you that that's all nonsense, and don't let the Labor government use the horrific attacks on the Jewish community to benefit their political agenda. No.
Of course.
But 2 things can be true at once. In fact, 3 things can be true at once. These guys are lying fools that have zero credibility. And every time they come up with a mad, wild conspiracy on something quite simple, remember this moment. Remember. And I'm sure more people are going to see this than saw their original one. So it's good. Because I think more people...
I think some people might be looking at this and be like, "Oh, Avi, you're being a bit petty, and you guys are, watching this video and criticizing them." But I have to put it out there. That's exactly what they're doing to your video at that point, and they're critically analyzing.
They're analyzing, but they were questioning its legitimacy with nothing.
This response from you and from me watching this video and criticizing, I guess, what they're putting out there, I think it's reasonable in that context. So I don't think this is like a petty thing that some people might view it as.
You know what?
Inferring from some of the comments, but I think it's this is the way that I think we can show people that there are these, even within our space, there has to be, like you said before, critical thinking applied to things that people are saying, and this is a great example of that for sure.
Yeah, look, petty. I don't really. These guys. I don't care what they say. Like it doesn't bother me. It's funny to see now. The reason why I think it's important to show it is for the reasons we mentioned before. Like it is important for people to realize that, one, you've got a critical thing, and 2, like, to make shit up on the internet is so easy, right? And so, like, I go out and do the work to bring you a story. I can't bring you something. I can't make something up without producing some evidence. And the problem, the thing that makes it important for me to share it is that I think that people don't realize how often this happens and how easy on the internet it is. So somebody can grow a little bit of a following, and people believe them because they kind of like them on the certain issues, and then they can just make stuff up. And unless I'm just grateful the evidence came forth, because it turns out literally everything these guys said as presented as almost fact turned out to be wrong. And and I hope the lesson for people watching this is, one, anyone you watch, if somebody presents something to you that is of a conspiracy nature, it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. I know through COVID, because the government lied to us so much, people then just don't believe anything. And so you've got to walk it back a bit, because you end up going down a rabbit hole. You end up in a place where, like, how do you live your life just not believing your own eyes? not believing your ears. You can't live like that. You need to realize, like, there are agendas out there, and it is good to question stuff, but don't believe people just making things up. Like, if somebody's going to tell you something, demand just like you want to demand the evidence from the government, from the police, from the institutions. You wanted the evidence in COVID. You wanted the evidence to prove everything that they were saying. Why wouldn't you want the evidence from the people who are making wild accusations? Why wouldn't you? Of course you would. Of course you should. On that note...
Nice. Fair comment.
On that note, let's read this... Anyways, that was fun. I'm glad you watched it with me because I got the petty part is... The part of the pettiness that's true is that I wanted to watch it all the way through because it was clear within a minute... It was clear within a minute that these guys were just talking out of their asses. Like, they were just making it up. And I know what their agenda is. But within a minute, it was clear. And it was funny already because the footage just showed... What did he say? It has more holes than what? It has so many... It showed it has so many holes.
Yeah.
What did Lukey Lou say? Thank you for the... You reading it?
Yeah, I'll read it. Sorry, my screen's a bit small today. As a
Ashkenazi. That's why I made you read it.
I see that word thrown around a lot online, of course. As Ashkenazi, I saw this coming months prior. It's unbelievably naive to think this couldn't be staged as 9/11 was planned years prior by Israel.
Listen, I am glad, Lukey Lou, that you spent $8 to tell me that this was staged by Israel. And
look, there's a lot of people saying that online still. Like, I've seen comments today on X as this footage has been breaking, and people have been sharing this footage that, while still Mossad, this is a Mossad operation.
Look,
this firebombing
and that's why I say I'm really hopeful that the police don't only, because even if they just catch, it's like the Burgatory one, when they caught the people that actually did the firebombing in the burger. So what's his name? Hashtaya immediately, like all these clowns, blamed the Jews, said the Zionists did it because he was because he was pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel or whatever. And then they finally caught the guys, and the guys that they caught were not Jews. They were a bit similar to this. They were guys that were also charged with other firebombings. It was to do with the
well, it was two black African individuals, right?
Two black Africans, two Africans,
Muslim.
but they weren't Muslim, but they were African. I don't know, maybe one was, but it doesn't matter. The point is that they were also charged for other offences in the what is it called, the Tobacco War, right? And days prior to that, also Hashtaya was talking about how it's Arabs on Arabs, the whole Tobacco War. So there was more connection to his side than there was anything Jewish. But the thing that frustrates me in that story is that they never actually, so far, have told us who paid those criminals to do it. I think here there's a bit more pressure to make it happen, and I really hope they do, because, tonight we showed that these guys who jumped onto the witness and blamed the Jews right there, and that the big Mossad operation was actually just them, well, it's proven them wrong. The next step is to show who funded it, who actually ordered this attack, and then hopefully that there are good people who have fallen for the nonsense, who realize that when you keep listening to these type of people who their first thing is to blame the Jews on everything, that there's people that you're not going to convince because what they just hate Jews. But I'm talking about the good people that have gone down the rabbit hole, and after COVID have started listening to people like these and just believed every conspiracy that they've come up with. And then when they realize, okay, fine, all right, so they were wrong about everything about that day, but maybe they're right about the conspiracy. And then it gets proven that the conspiracy itself, that the Mossad did it was nonsense, then hopefully those people that kind of fell down that rabbit hole are pulled back and have a bit of a wake up, a bit of a wake up moment where they go, okay, maybe I need to critically think every time I hear a story. I don't know. Like it is an uphill battle. I can see it online, especially on X. It's a lot of loud accounts. I think your average Australian watches. It's not the comment section on my YouTube videos or on X or whatever. But I think the average Australian already looks at that and goes, okay, that definitely wasn't the Jews doing it to themselves. Yeah. How many times previously in Australia have Jews targeted their own thing ever?
Yeah. I mean, statistically, it's like zero, pretty much. It's like it's not a common thing that we associate it with the Jewish population.
But without us having, that's the thing that hurts, is without having. So it's like in that world now online, Jews are guilty until proven innocent, even when they're the victims. That's insane. It's like, dude, a synagogue was firebombed. Like, the Mossad would not firebomb a synagogue to make point. There's so many other places they'll firebomb if they wanted to create a false flag, if you believe that. But they wouldn't do it. And you know what? Like, if you think they are, get something. Find something. Because so far, everything that's come out shows that it wasn't anyone but a planned group.
Yeah.
That probably don't like Jews. Anyways, we've got one more super chat, and I reckon we can start to close up. What do we got? Yet Islamic terrorists.
That's from Catherine. Thanks, Catherine. I'll read this one. Yet Islamic terrorists are so active in Africa.
Yeah, well, I did an interview yesterday with. I was talking to someone. They said, how many Islamic terrorists have there been around the world? So Islamic extremists, how many terrorist attacks by Islamic extremists have been perpetrated around the world since September 11? The one that they say is the Mossad. How many? How many do you reckon?
Oh, there'd be like more than 100. Hundreds.
All terror attacks. I'm talking about
everything.
Anything that's jihadi attacks. How many do you think record? There's a I think it's jihadwatch.org or whatever. They track it. Do you know how many they since September 11?
Pick a number. I'll say 2,000.
45,000.
45.
Go fact check me, guys. Critically think. Don't go and look at. I think it's on Jihad Watch or whatever. How many Jewish terror attacks have there been since September 11?
0.
Like Jewish extremist terrorism. Like there's not one I can think of that you could consider a Jewish terror attack. Is there an attack by settlers, maybe? Like, if you can call that?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think from a Western perspective, I think it's only till, from what I've seen, it's only till really this current conflict we've heard it in such terms, describing that as a terror attack in a mainstream way, where everyone's kind of talking about it in that way, like those kind of interactions that happen in Israel proper. But yeah, like as far as what we know as an Islamic terror attack that we see in the West, no, I don't think there's any kind of time where I can remember where it was like a Jewish terror attack in the West. So
it doesn't happen. I got one for you. Your mate Lukey Lou's back. He's giving you. I think this must be on your YouTube, because it would be even funnier if he was doing it on mine.
Luko says the amount of fallacies I'm hearing tonight is out of control. Logical appeal to authority, etc. I expect more from at least Rukshan. Yeah, look, I mean, people put this to me all the time, and like for me, the hardest part is obviously, Avi, you're Jewish, and everyone kind of looks at my views through you, because it's like, of course,
there's a reason why the Mossad pays you, mate.
Yeah, I'm controlled by the Mossad. Like, that's what everyone says. Like, whatever opinion I have, it was the Mossad speaking, because obviously, Avi's a Mossad agent. Yeah. I'm one of your, your inferior, one of the people that use the Gentiles 100%. Or whatever. There's all sorts of things. You should see my inbox. My private inbox is like insane. If you want to see the stuff that people say to me, and a lot of people are actually trying to convert me over to leave Avi the devil and, all this stuff, right? So
we've discussed how we're going to do the breakup. We'll make it really like Abby Chatfield and Clementine Ford style.
It'll be epic. But I don't personally agree with a lot of like your views 100% like that. I come more from like a Western perspective. And as someone coming from a Western perspective, there's no way that I excuse acts of terrorism. Terrorists are the enemy of people like me in the West. And that's one angle that I come from it. But also, terrorism, especially, I guess, Islamic terrorism, is not unique to the West. This happens in South Asia, for instance. So, for myself, I've seen it firsthand, these kind of terror attacks that happen and the impact that it has on society. And I don't want that for Australian society. So a lot of these issues that I look at it from the perspective of as an Australian, and we do not want these foreign things from the Middle East, from Asia, from India, Pakistan, Israel, Gaza, polluting our way of life in Australia. I personally don't think a lot of these issues matter beyond, from an Australian context, beyond how it impacts the West and our alliances and, what we need to do to protect our safety in this country. Like, people might call me selfish for that, but as a Westerner, as an Australian, that is the number one priority. And if that means stamping out radical Islamic terrorism, then I'm all for that, because from my experience and from what I've seen, the people who are being radical in our society come from predominantly that particular group. And of course, we have people on the left who are extremists. We have people on the right, the far right, who are extremists. But predominantly the people that are causing damage, blowing things up, making life hard for people, and actually going in, like you can watch how can you watch the parliament? You can watch the parliament in Iran where they're wishing death to America and death to the West. And these are the people who are funding, Hezbollah and Hamas and stuff. So at a fundamental level, if you are a Western individual living in the West, these people are people that want to kill you. So there is no chance for me as a Western person living in Australia that I would support this type of ideology. So that's where I come from. And then, yes, there's a crossover. Obviously, I don't support whatsoever. I condemn completely the attacks on Israel by Hamas and the things that they did. These are things that we should, of course, condemn unequivocally. There's no question. There's no gray area. I believe if you're living in the West, there's no kind of, there's like a resist. No, if this happened in Sri Lanka, if it happened in India or Pakistan, I would also condemn it. I do not care that these people are like, a brown like me or something like this. These people do not share our values. They are people we should reject. The ideology should be rejected. And I'm 100% happy to stand by that, because I don't want to have anything to do with these type of extremists. And if Trump, for instance, wants to wipe out these extremists and bomb ISIS and, all the crazy stuff that we saw ISIS doing over the years, if he wants to take them out, I support that, because these are people who are enemies of the West. And that is my view. And it's nothing to do with Avi. It's 100% me. And there just happens to be a crossover, because obviously I know you, Avi, and
you've just earned yourself a pay rise, a bonus this month from the Mossad.
I get a bonus from the Mossad. But you have to understand, all around the world, if you go to India, if you go to Sri Lanka, people there will say, we do not like terrorists. We do not like terrorism. And that is a part of the conflict in India and Pakistan. A lot of that conflict has to do with terrorism and the funding of terrorism by the Pakistanis, because India, gets along with its other neighbors. There's historical issues there, but a lot of that issue has to do with the fact that the Pakistanis cannot stop at a state level working with the Taliban and other terrorist organizations within Pakistan and within Kashmir. They cannot help themselves, and they've been a bad actor for years. So this is not something that's unique to Westerners, this experience. A lot of people have this experience. So I'm melding all of that together and saying unequivocally that I do not support these terrorists. And I'm happy for these terrorists to be taken out. And what needs to be done to ensure that people can live in peace and harmony like we're living in Australia, in safety. And I have no problem.
I want to put his. I know it's against me, but I'll put his comment again, because I want to understand, get your perspective on, because what he's saying, I'm hearing today, is like a logical appeal to authority. So what was the appeal to authority? The fact that I know how the Jewish community operates. I think that there's plenty of people who know how the Jewish community operates, and they're not Jewish. It's not. An appeal to authority would be like, I'm saying you can't because you can't figure it out for yourself. I'm saying you can. anyone can go and work it out, but you've got to do, like, the thing is, if you show a picture of a door, it's not an appeal to authority for me to tell you, dude, that's the wrong door. I've been there. I've seen the door. I know it well, so I happen to know easily that it's not the same door. But you could also just go back to where you were looking. You literally, on your own screen, they've been panning. I saw in that video, they're actually panning between the doors. So if you didn't already have an agenda, it's not an appeal to authority. It's an appeal to using your actual brain. And the problem with this one is they came into it with a conclusion. They knew how they wanted it to be. They wanted it. The outcome that they wanted to present, it wasn't like they were investigating and watching and trying to work out what really happened that day. They had a story that they wanted to tell, so they twisted every little image that they could, and that's what keeps happening, not just with this story, with a bunch of other stories that you see these guys pick up, is that they find something out of nothing to tell the story that they want to tell.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, Avi. So appeal to authority, like I see this all the time, especially from people who are outside of the war zone, for instance, right, in Israel and Gaza. Especially like a lot of these kind of white people that, these on the left, right? Because they're always talking about colonization and all these kind of things. But they seem to understand or respect the views of the Palestinian group as 100%. But when it comes to the lived experiences of, for yourself, for instance, in Australia, or from Jews in general, they question that, but without having the same lived experience or the same understanding of that. They will question that and be like, well, you can't appeal to your Jewishness to explain this to me because I know this as someone that we shouldn't believe you, right? But the same kind of critical thinking is not applied to the terrorist group. So if you tell this group, oh, well, they're using tunnels, or the UNRWA funding is being used for terrorism, they'll be like, oh, well, these Palestinians are saying that it's not used for that. And that's enough for me. That's good enough for me. So there's a lot of that going on. So I don't think when I hear you speaking about the synagogue and, what happens at the synagogue and stuff, as someone who is Jewish, I will look at your view as more credible because, like, you have that understanding. You'll understand that the first aid ambulance thing that they do, like, you get that. So of course there has to be credibility put towards your view. But also, like, an appeal to authority.
There is an appeal to, like, everybody lives day by day with an appeal to authority. Like when you're not feeling well, like when you have a heart attack, you don't go to the plumber. Like, you don't go to your mate because your mate watched online these guys doing heart training of some, you go to a heart specialist, you go to a doctor, right? So there is, like, everybody lives their entire life appealing to authority, but I'm not appealing to authority when I'm saying I know how the Jewish community operates. I'm not saying you can't know. There are a lot of non-Jewish people that know. I'm saying these guys don't know because I can hear how they're talking about it. So I'm not saying you have to believe me because I'm Jewish. I'm just saying I can see their ignorance because I can hear that they don't know what they're talking about. And it was proven when this video came out. It just proved it. And later will be proved. I can look, if they do, and I pray to God that they do actually find whoever ordered this attack, because then there will be a lot of people with egg on their face. And look, the people that generate those lies, like these guys, they'll never correct the record. They've got no reason to. Maybe now they'll do a video because we've done. They might do a response video to you or to us. But I don't think they're going to take.
I'm just reading the comments, and there's some people taking not kindly to the fact that I've singled out white people when I was talking about a thing. But I heard that there is a group of left-wing leaning white individuals who talk about decolonization.
That's what you meant by that.
Yeah, there is a far left group of white individuals who talk about the fact that they're colonists, and they talk about decolonization, and they talk about the fact that Australia is a colonial entity that's shouldn't be recognized.
All the same arguments they make about Israel,
and these same groups that make the arguments about Israel, they are predominantly white left-wing university people. Like, you have to make that distinction when you're talking about these things. Like, we're talking about real world politics.
It is true. The difference is like more like Arabs and that jump on the bandwagon when it comes to Israel. So they steal the same language because that's kind of the popular academic language.
Yes.
The colonial.
It's got nothing to do with that. They don't believe in that.
They don't believe in that, but they use the language of the left because it's how they get this. They co-opt the entire left wing to join them. When personally, they're all real conservatives. Really, like all the Arabs are would be considered in the West as mostly far right, aside for the two issues. It'll be Israel and immigration. On immigration, they want more, and with Israel, they obviously agree with the left, but for completely different reasons. They just use the colonial settler, white supremacist, whatever. It's all the same things, even though in Israel it actually makes far less sense than let's say in Australia. But I got what you were saying when you said
look, I'm gonna obviously keep doing that because we talk about in these kind of groups, Asians or you just gotta. If you're a white individual getting offended by someone of color bringing up a white specific group, it's just the conversations that we have. I talk about Indians, I talk about Sri Lankans, I talk about immigrants. We have to categorize people in the political discourse because that's just the way that it's discussed out in the public.
Because they happen to be white. Those white uni students, the ones from the socialist left at
they have no idea about the real world.
But that's exactly what we're talking about. We spent half the beginning of the whole show talking about these exact people.
They got no idea.
A couple last super chats now. What have we got? The new insult from the cookers is to ask if you're Jewish. So true.
Yeah.
Do they ask you if you're Jewish now?
Well, am I as this is again? Am I as
that word is kind of interchangeable.
I believe in the existence of the state of Israel the same way that I believe in the existence of the sovereignty of Australia. It is a nation
that by
state
definition that makes you a Zionist.
Exactly.
So most of the people that use it as a slur don't know what it means.
Yeah, so by definition, if you believe in the existence of the right of Israel to exist as a country, then by definition you are a Zionist. But it is the same way that I believe in the sovereignty of the nation state of Australia to exist in the last 200 years. But Israel's claim to existence goes back way further than the existence of Australia. And there are so many Australians on this topic who are so uneducated will say, well, Australia is different. No, it is the exact same thing. All nations are created almost in the exact same way, and you can go back in history and find all types of issues. But at the end of the day, if you believe in the fundamental existence of that state, it is no different than being a Zionist. So yes, I believe in the state of Israel the same way I believe in the state of Australia. And there are people who do not agree that Australia should exist as a country, who are most often the same people that says that Israel is not a country that should exist. So
it took 2.5 hours for us to get Rukshan to admit that he is a raging Zionist. And your mate's back again. The appeal to authority was referring to the cops. So when
we criticize the police. We criticized the police earlier today. Like we're not. I don't think. The police
but I do get what he's saying there. Fine, because we said because what did I say? I said the police. I don't know. We were saying that the police said that, and the police didn't. Had the specific suspects. But the appeal to authority on the thing is, you have to rely on what the police are saying unless you find them lying about something. In COVID, they lied a lot because they were covering for the state.
The state, yes. It's
in
very
this
different.
Case, like when it comes to regular crime, so real crime, like unless police give me a reason, like unless they're doing something corrupt, like in Victoria where they had the whole... what's her name, Gobbo, and all that stuff. Like, unless you find some piece of evidence, and even in that case, there was a reason for it. Like, they were being corrupt to be able to push their cases through. Like, in this situation, like, there needs to be a reason as to why police are not going to tell the truth. Like, what if they think it is that Jew, and they didn't come in, like, we saw the evidence, they came in hard. And then they realized they got the wrong guy, and then they opened their investigation, and now it's landed here. But at the time, like after they came in hard at that guy, they then realized it wasn't him, and so like there was no one gave us a reason not to believe the police. Like they had to.
Yeah.
The police aren't lying every time they talk. They're not. Otherwise, like if you've ever had any experience with the police, they're not. There are certain situations where,
like, definitely, like, I'm not from the anti-police crowd. I mean, it might appear like that from my lockdown coverage, but that was definitely more so an issue
because
of
they were protecting the state,
influence of the state, and them not carrying out their role that the public expects of them as police officers. There's a big difference between the defund the police crowd and I think the views that we would have about policing, Avi. So, police are ordinary members of the public that are signed up to, protect the public. And yes, they make mistakes, but like you said, everyday crime, even complicated crimes like this for the federal police, they are doing at one level their job. And we have to have a level of trust in the things that they're saying to an extent. Now, when they're producing CCTV footage, it's almost irrefutable because it matches up also with the witness's statement. And there's no reason for us to believe that CCTV footage is fake or whatever, So at those levels,
do you reckon that's going to be the next angle? It took them. I mean, look, it took the Mossad 6 months to create the footage.
To produce the AI footage of the security incident.
Oh no, yeah. Look, there's no winning absolute cookers, but I'm hoping that these kinds of conversations and exposing this nonsense, and showing that people can just make stuff up without being held at all accountable. I'm hoping it is holding them accountable, but it's reaching those people in the middle that are not completely lost, people that can find their way back. And on that note, my friend, any final words?
No, I think there's a lot of things that people can clip and take out of context.
I'm going to keep reading. I think he keeps giving you super chats.
Put the super chats in.
So it's the same guy. Good on him. Lukey Lou, what does he say? He says, read it out.
Cops couldn't lie for the interests of Zionism. They did it with COVID, all of which was Jewish controlled. Look into the people behind the factions. I believe you're saying.
So, COVID,
I mean, you can insinuate that to whatever degree that you want for almost anything. And like, we can only work with what we have, and if that's your baseline, where it's like, well,
there's no winning. Like, there's no conversations to have.
That's it, mate. That's all there is, because it's always going to be like that for everything.
Like, the police are covering for Zionism. Like, okay, so I'm dismissing you at that point because I know they're not covering for Zionism, and just look around the last year and a half. Ain't nobody covering for Zionism no more. So now your next comment, which you followed up with, that's a conversation I'm willing to have with you, that this is all about free speech laws, right? And fine. That's a conversation I'm willing to have with you. And that's why I say, as a Jew who believes the story, I don't want anyone using my name to implement more speech laws, hate crime laws, whatever. But if your starting point is that they're just protecting it for the interest of Zionism, why? What is in it for the police to protect Zionism? Which Zionism, and I don't know if you, Lukey Luke or Lukey Lou, have any idea what Zionism actually means. All it is somebody like Rukshan, like me, who believes that Israel has a right to exist. Israel, the Jewish people, the state, has a right to exist in the ancient homeland of the Jewish people in Israel. Now, whether you believe the old history or just the fact that they conquered it recently, it doesn't matter. If you believe Israel, just like Australia has the right to exist, that's us. So why the heck would the Victorian police be protecting Zionism? And in what way, even if they do, in what way is doing whatever they did that day, lying that this guy, which they knew clearly was going to come out because they put out the evidence to prove that he was actually telling the truth. Like, they knew there was so much. Why would they run cover for Zionism? Then you go into, like, everything's just Jewish control. Well, I can't win there because it isn't. It's like people who say all the media is controlled by the Jews, and all social media is
the Jewish community in Australia. They're very effective. They do have these effective lobbies that that do have a political voice and influence in the terms of how they carry themselves.
Sure.
They're well organized. They've been around for a while, and they know what they're doing in terms of a political structure about raising the concerns of their community. And it's no different to what we're seeing now. With this last election, we had, get out the vote for the Muslim vote, right? We have these organizations coming up in Australia. We have Indian organizations who are, focused on their communities coming up in Australia. So this happens over a period of time, and the Jewish community has been very effective at it because they've been, established in Australia at different levels for a long time, especially at professional levels. So they are naturally going to go into bat for their communities, and people are going to misconstrue that. But what I think has been happening, Avi, is the fact that, especially when it comes to something like free speech, the problem we have in Australia is the authorities, the police, and the governments, they walk on eggshells when it comes to certain communities and certain demographics. Yeah. And they refuse to act and enact those things because they don't want to be perceived as being racist or being targeting a group or, telling the truth, God forbid, right? So they walk in eggshells, and then they make it, harder for the rest of society, like the Jewish populations, whatever. And they have to come out with, these kind of extreme things like, we need the government to do more, protect our community. And it sounds like they're asking for these crazy laws to come in and stuff. And look, a lot of these kind of conservative groups, they might not even want that, but they're pushing back against the government, who they see as doing nothing. And we know, like I know the reason, and I know many of you watching at home know that our governments and our police authorities refuse to act against certain groups in our community. And I don't want to go into this is like a totally other conversation, but for whatever reason, they refuse to act against these communities. And, we're going to end up like the UK, where these communities are calling the shots now, and they have the police and the government have no control whatsoever. So definitely, I think it's been weaponized in a way, these attacks against these anti-Semitic attacks, by even the Labor government making excuses, trying to push these kind of laws through, and other governments pushing these free speech laws through. But they also have their own agendas to control the population, to control online speech. So there's lots of things at play. I don't think you can just put it at the feet of the Jewish community trying to get these things passed through. And I think that's the mistake that people are making.
Even that comment is saying everything's controlled by the Jews. Like, where do you start from there? Like, it's just not true. It's
a zero-sum game. It's a zero-sum game. Like, what are you gonna like? Where does that go?
Exactly. And you're saying the Jews control the COVID. Then it's like, mate, there were Jews on both sides of it. There's Jews that were fighting against it. There were Jews that were, of course, a part of it. There's also Christians, by the way, who were leading, and there were Christians against it. There were Muslims for it. There were Muslims against it. Like, the Jew wasn't the important ingredient there, the driving force of anything. And so with these people, when they start saying that, it's everything. And the media is a great example, and social media, it's like, oh, the Jews control the narrative. And it's like, really? Have you looked over the last 19 months? Do you really think the Jews have controlled the narrative? Because if Jews had controlled the narrative, we wouldn't be having this discussion now, because your social media feed wouldn't be full of, mistruths about either the Jewish community or Israel or the conflict or whatever. You've been fed subconsciously and consciously, both when you turn on your idiot box at night and on your computer when you go and scroll Facebook, TikTok.
Yeah, well, everyone that's saying online these days, like the Jews are like shutting them down, are the people with the loudest voices. It's insane. Like, how can you believe that? Like, how can you believe that? During COVID, like, yes, people, like, we were demonetized, we were shut off platforms. Like, there were certain things we couldn't talk about. We had to be very careful. Like, that was real. But if you look at what people are saying about Jews today, and these same people are saying, oh, we're being attacked, we're going to be shut down. No, it's not happening. Their audiences are growing in the sense of, nothing's being stopped. And it's not happening the way that they're describing. So I think there is a disconnect that people can't put this logical thing together. Like, how can these two things be correct at the same time? They're not. It's insane in a way.
Andrew says, socialists are far left radicals. That's true.
Mate, he gave $100 to say that. He's giving it to capitalism. I don't know if it's $100 or something else.
I don't know what that is. ARS.
I don't mind, but go for capitalism.
And there was a Hong Kong one that gave us last time, like 500. I was like, I was like, no, but it's Hong Kong. And then I realized after it's actually that's $100 Aussie.
Wow.
So The Hong Kong one. Sorry, I didn't. I maybe you didn't give me after that. After you realised
straight from the communists, coming from the Hong Kong. Yeah.
No, Hong Kongers are right.
I know.
They're
I'm
probably Hong
speaking
Kongers that support me from the days that I was reporting at those protests. Your mate Lukey Lou is back on. He says, like APAC and AJAC running both sides, not all cops and Jews are in on it. The word Zion, YouTube lets me post, and who is behind open borders? Look, it's a whole
that's a massive conversation. Yeah.
Yes, but it's complete nonsense. And if you want to look at so APAC, for example, people who don't know, that is the lobby, the American Israel lobby in the US. It's American citizens. Anyways, the point is, they're not even in the top 20 most powerful lobbies in America. They get a lot more attention than any of the other ones because it's the Jews again. But there's a million of other. There's a heap. Well, I think they're like 24 on the list or something. I don't remember exactly, but they're not the top even 10, 20 most powerful PACs in the US. And if you want to look at money and who's buying, it's actually Israel's enemy. Look at Qatar today. Look, yesterday they gave Trump 14. What is it? How much was that?
Is it 14 or 40 billion? I don't know. It was pretty expensive.
400 million. I think a $400 million, whatever it was, they gave Trump. Okay, Qatar spends more than anyone, billions, on the education system in America, in Australia, around the West, to infiltrate. So if you want to compare, it ain't Israel. It's actually Qatar, which is Israel's enemy, that has far more power. And when you talk about open borders, it is such a ridiculous idea. Yes, some Jews have supported open borders, just like some Jews are vehemently against it, like the one you're looking at now, and most, real conservative Jews are against the idea of open borders. It's more of a political position. So the idea that Zion, why would Israel need open borders? How does it help Israel that there's open borders? But I feel like these people are reading the word Zion, like they use it again as a dirty word, and then they don't actually know what it means. It's like a slur that's thrown every time, because even your mate that keeps giving you money, and I'm only still on here because they keep throwing money at you, is that they go, the word Zion on YouTube lets me post. But Zion, what does Zion mean? Look it up. Zion. It's the place. Anyways, thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure, and I hope some of you have got a little bit of pettiness in you too.
Someone asked if we're drunk in the comments.
No, I'm just tired, actually.
We're tired. And we just I think this format we're doing, obviously we're doing longer shows. Yeah. And responding to questions and stuff, and then we're going to go on a bit of a tangent here and there, responding to questions. But perhaps it's interesting because you get to hear a few more of our organic, natural views rather than when it's linked to a particular topic.
And this is 3 hours in.
3 hours in, yeah. So
almost 3 hours in. So have some sympathy for us. Andrew, for 200 AR, I want to look up what ARS is. The state and federal governments are not doing enough to crack down on anti-Semitism. I think just generally social cohesion is a problem at the moment, and a lot of it has to do with the immigration. That's why when you say the Zionists are all pro open borders, it's actually factually not correct, especially not now. Even though many of those Zionists that were before are not now. But let's look up what ARS...
While you're doing that, social cohesion and the concept of social cohesion in the West and multiculturalism, how it's practiced in most of the West, is at odds. Those two things don't work together. So once you allow for these kind of multicultural sentiments to come into the West, where you have communities who are kind of living their way of life and their cultural way of life, you cannot have social cohesion. I think the biggest solution to social cohesion is, some type of assimilation or ensuring that people have a national identity or culture that is unique to that country that people live by and have to follow. because that's what it means to be an Australian, for instance. But we don't have that in this country anymore, at least. So it's really hard to have this, this view of social cohesion that politicians talk about, because it doesn't exist, because they will not address the problems with different cultures that are coming to Australia that try to dominate with their cultural views and practices, especially about other people. So that's what needs to be stamped out. And I think that's what gets rid of issues like anti-Semitism and things, because, again, they're foreign things which are being brought into Australia in the way that it's being discussed today. It is not something that is naturally an Australian, point of view to have these anti-Semitic views. For instance, it's coming from outside, and the more multiculturalism you have, the more. Because if you go to the Middle East, or if you go to parts of Asia, for instance, anti-Semitism is not something that we're discussing today. It is just a normal way of looking at the world. That Israel shouldn't exist and Jews are bad, whatever. That's just their normal state of mind. So it's not something they've learned in the sense of, this has been taught to us. So when you bring that into the country and you don't have people assimilating into Australian culture, of course you're going to have rampant anti-Semitism, because they're not doing something that's uniquely different to their normal lived cultural experience. And I think that's the real key problem here we're having with cohesion in Australia, is that we have too many people idealizing this view of multiculturalism that is clearly not working, and we don't have this kind of shared national identity of what it means to be an Australian that is, coming on top of that to get rid of all those issues. And politicians are just pretending like they can fix this with laws, but they can't, because fundamentally the issue is incompatible cultures with the West in Australia.
100%. And ARS is, I think, Argentinian, and 100 is about 14 cents. On that note, God bless. Thank you all for your support tonight. Appreciate
Thanks,
it. We'll
mate.
see you again on Tuesday night, unless there's an emergency live stream. That was almost 3 hours. I'm glad to take part in it. I'm having fun. We'll do more live streams about every single subject of what's making news. And guess what? If you super chat, even if you don't like me, especially if you don't like me, we will put it up. Good night, guys.
100%. Thanks
for
everyone.
being with
Good
us.
night,
Make
guys.
sure to hit the notification button so you get our next stream.
Bye.